space-time transaction. Exchanging food for the elf princess at the start. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326. Although it was not a surprise to everyone that the dragon came here just to cause trouble, it was still a bit outrageous for this guy to speak so bluntly in front of Wee Wee and others. It was naturally impossible for Lin Yilong to agree to such a request. Not to mention that he was currently surrounded by a group of 8th and 9th level men from Mengchuan City. If he really agreed, he would probably have his head ripped off in an instant. Just from the fact that people from Kaishu must go through Wee Wei and Sui in some way if they want to come to the magical world. It is impossible to stab Wee Wei in the back as a 2nd and 5th son. To take a step back, even if Jia Zhao has the means to freely travel between the magic world and Blue Star, it is impossible to abandon Wee Wei as a partner and find a completely unfamiliar dragon to cooperate with. Although they don't know the reason, Su Yi said when they came here that if they reach any agreement with Wee Wei, they can hand it over to Su Yi later, and then they don't have to worry about Wee Wei's breach of contract. Maybe it was due to some of Su Yi's abilities, or maybe it was due to some unknown reasons between the two parties, but none of that matters. The important thing is that in this unfamiliar magical world, Wee Wei is the only person from another world who can be completely trusted by those who come here from Kaishu. At least what is written in the contract. Wee Wei will never break the contract. Her previous performance has shown the truth of this. Kaishu now has a total of 20,000 people stationed in Mengchuan City or the surrounding areas, so there will naturally be a lot of trouble. And because they came from another world, it is difficult to solve these troubles according to the rules of the magical world itself. Therefore, Lin Yilong and other senior command officials specially signed some similar contracts with Wee Wei to try not to offend the sovereignty of the Blazing Sun Empire. Under the circumstances, the Kaishu people who came here were given some innocuous privileges, or it would not be an exaggeration to say it was convenience. This kind of thing is not only sensitive in Blue Star, but also in the magical world, but Wee Wei still strictly fulfilled the agreement after signing it. There are many similar things. The Kaishu people have just arrived, and many places are incompatible with this world. So they need a lot of help from Wee Wei, the local leader. Among these help, there are many things that would make Wee Wei more difficult to handle. But since signing the contract, Wee Wei has never breached the contract. Just based on Wee Wei's attitude, Jia Zhao would not abandon such a reliable teammate to join this seemingly abnormal dragon. Therefore, facing the olive branch extended by the giant dragon, Lin Yilong just smiled and did not answer. After a moment of silence, Wee Wei, who had already put her hand on the hilt of the sword, said expressionlessly, "You have 5 minutes." The Black Dragon Prince didn't mind when Lin Yilong didn't answer, but continued, "Well, you are surrounded by this group of people now, and it is indeed difficult to answer. You can go back and consider my proposal carefully. Believe me, this is definitely the best choice for you. In addition, in order to prevent you from being deceived by these humans, I can also tell you a bigger secret. Don't deceive anyone by denying that you are not from another world. I can tell you clearly that from the first day, when a group of strange people appeared in Mengchuan City, there were demigod level powerful people. The investigators have noticed you, but they are not yet sure whether you are from another world, how you came to this world, and whether it is possible to return to another world. Because I had too many questions, I didn't rush to take action. Now that so much time has passed, it's not just demigods who have been eyeing you. As far as I know, there is more than one god who is eyeing you now. There are more secretly observing entities who have never shown their faces. When these beings can no longer hold back one day, or you expose something enough to make them tempted, do you think they will still be watching you quietly behind the scenes? At that time, the newly promoted Queen Mengchuan will not be able to protect you. Even if she becomes the Emperor of the Blazing Sun Empire, she will be no different from an ant in front of those beings. You have no idea what kind of existence you are facing. Ah, you done? Wee Wei sneered impatiently. They are all puppets manipulated by others. Who is better than the other? Gods? Demigods? You can let them try, but I can't say what will happen to me then, but you will definitely not be able to see it, even if she takes 10,000 steps back and relies on the trading platform. She still has a way out for herself. Point of course there is no fear. 10 minutes are up. It's a pity that you didn't give me a reason to give up killing you. After saying that, we took a few steps back. Several 9th level powerhouses beside her immediately stood in front of her. Giant dragons are born warriors. As a noble among giant dragons, this black dragon is one of the best. Under normal circumstances, it can easily defeat a 9th level human being in a one-on-one encounter, whether it is a warrior or a magician. To defeat, it's just that it's more difficult to kill the opponent. If it faced 2 or more 9th level experts, it would be more difficult to deal with it, but as long as it didn't act stupid, it could still win. If faced with a 9th level human who cultivated both magic and martial arts, or 3 or more 9th level experts who cultivated a single path, the ordinary 9th level dragon would have no choice but to flee. As a royal dragon with pure blood, the black dragon would still he has the strength to fight, and even has a certain probability of winning. But when facing 4 or even 5 or 6 9th level humans, even a powerful black dragon can only run for its life among the same level. However, its vitality is much stronger than that of ordinary dragons. Even if it faces the siege of so many powerful humans, it is not difficult to escape, as long as it is not entangled in some magic circles. This is also the reason why the black dragon prince in front of him is not panicked at all. The high-end combat power in Mengchuan City is indeed not weak, but since it carries some life-saving magic items, it is difficult for these people to keep it, even if they come out in full force. At most, it will suffer some injuries, which is nothing for a dragon with abnormal physique. What's more, the people brought by Wee at present do not even have half of the high-end combat power of Mengchuan City. Humph. The dragon snorted disdainfully, and then looked at Lin Yilang again. Foreigner, remember what I said, think carefully. I will find you privately next time, and hope to get the answer I want. As he said, he spread his wings and wanted to leave. Wee said expressionlessly, kill it. Chapter 327. In this cramped and dark underground world, a war was about to break out. Among the 7 9th level warriors from Mengchuan City, 6 of them went straight to the dragon, and the remaining female warrior was protecting Weewoo's safety. After all, she was just a weakling of the 7th level, and this kind of war was not something she could participate in. As for Lin Yilang, at the first moment of the war, he was taken away by a pet, summoned by an 8th level magician who was familiar with summoning magic. The remaining nearly 28th level warriors from Mengchuan City helped those 9th level warriors, and waited for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Although it was difficult to cause any fatal injuries to the 9th level black dragon, it was still possible to break the defense and slowly bleed the opponent. The horrible battle caused the underground cave to be full of rubble, as if it would collapse at any time. But those present were all fierce men, and didn't care at all. After an unknown amount of time, accompanied by a high-pitched roar, the black dragon swung its bone wings violently to force back several 9th level warriors, and then blew out a breath of dragon breath to interrupt the 9th level magicians who were chanting magic, forcing these magicians to release magic to protect themselves first. I won't play with you ants anymore. After saying that, it soared into the sky and smashed the hard rock dome above its head. Accompanied by waves of earthquakes, the thick underground rock layer at least 100 meters above the ground was forcibly collapsed by it, and it broke out of the cave. Under the scorching sun, the black dragon that left the cave opened its mouth and roared, and its dark scales shone brightly under the sunlight, flashing a dazzling metallic luster. Lin Yilang, who was already more than 10 kilometers away from the channel, saw this scene and decisively took out the walkie-talkie and said, "Now, launch. The missile has been launched. Please find a shelter nearby and be prepared for impact." As he spoke, 2 missiles suddenly rose into the air with tail flames in the mountains behind him, and silently sank into the clouds. Lin Yilang immediately picked up the walkie-talkie again. "City Lord, the missiles here have been launched and will reach the target area within 1 minute at the latest. You need to hold back this dragon and find shelter, or stay away when the missiles arrive. Got it? Everything is according to the original plan." Weewa's voice came from the other end of the walkie-talkie point at this time. She was still in the underground cave. When she heard it, she said, "Hold it for half a minute, then activate the magic circle outside, and you leave here quickly." "Yes." A group of 8th and 9th level strongmen responded one after another, and then suddenly chased out of the cave that had collapsed for the most part. Wee herself was led away from this place of trouble by the female warrior, the Black Dragon, that had just rushed out of his underwear a few times and was having fun, when suddenly a strong sense of crisis rose in his heart. He immediately turned his head to look at the sky in the direction of Mengchuan City, and his huge eyes revealed doubts. "What is this thing? Why does it give me a feeling that I will die if I can't escape?" But doubts are doubts, and when it comes to matters involving his life, he is naturally not vague at all. He immediately flapped his wings and turned around to leave. However, at this time, the attacks from the 9th level strongman had already reached his face, and he had to distract himself to resist these attacks. After all, they are both 9th level, and although it has stronger combat power, if it only cares about escaping and ignores others, it will still die if it is hit in some vital parts. After a fierce battle, it once again forced back several 9th level strongmen who were chasing after it, and then took the opportunity to violently vibrate its wings and leave at a faster speed. Before leaving, he still taunted, "A bunch of ants, is this what you are going to use against me? Things of this speed can't hit me." The 9th level masters, who were forced to retreat, had no intention of pursuing him, but just sneered and retreated, then turned around and left. The Black Dragon saw this, but his heart skipped a beat, and he had a bad feeling. At this moment, a huge magic circle suddenly rose from all directions, and a large number of tentacle-like vines emerged from the magic circle, which locked the Black Dragon directly in a flash, making it unable to move. Even if it was locked for only a moment, and it broke free, you can't stand the magic circle. You either destroy the array pattern directly, or consume all the energy in it, otherwise it can keep existing forever. The moment it broke free, more light vines had gathered and entangled it tightly, making it unable to move. The Black Dragon's eyes became more and more impatient, and the palpitating sense of crisis was getting closer and closer to it, but the magic circle that was entangled with it had no intention of relaxing. Even if these things could only entangle it for a moment each time, it was very difficult to break free and leave the area covered by the binding magic circle in a short time. And every time it accelerated, it was interrupted. If the speed could not be increased, it would be really difficult for it to avoid the unknown weapon that could even be seen from a distance. After repeating the cycle of breaking free and being bound again, the expected sense of crisis was getting closer and closer. The Black Dragon, who was very confident and not panicked from the beginning, finally panicked this time. It shouted, "No, Queen Mengchuan, I apologize for my previous offense. I am the son of the Black Dragon King. You can't kill me." However, Wei and the other 9th level strongmen had already run 10 kilometers away, and Lin Yiling, who had the command of these weapons, had even ridden the 8th level summoned beast and ran 30 or 40 kilometers away. Even if it screams at the top of its lungs, no one will pay attention to it. Finally, when the Black Dragon Prince's alarm reached its peak, and he even had difficulty breathing, the slow-moving object finally flew not far from him. With his eyesight, he could clearly see what it was: a strange-looking cylindrical object, which seemed to be connected in the middle by some means, and the back part was still spewing turbulent tail flames. As for the black thing in front, although he didn't know what it was, and didn't know what the black frame and red triangle nuclear radiation mark on it meant, he could feel it very clearly. The power that made his hair stand on end and his heart palpitate with fear was hidden in this small warhead. The Black Dragon made a last effort to break free from the light vines wrapped around his body. But how could this carefully prepared trap allow him to break free easily? Seeing that his body was once again wrapped in light vines, the Black Dragon was in despair at this time. Seeing the warhead getting closer and closer, he could only spit out a hot dragon breath at the warhead in a dying struggle. Obviously, this was useless with a flash of magic light. A defensive magic item attached to the warhead directly resisted the dragon's breath. Then the warhead instantly came to the dragon at a speed several times the speed of sound, and took the opportunity, when it was entangled by the light vine, to directly hit the black dragon's abdomen. The next moment, under the scorching sun, another dazzling sun rose in the mountains. Along with it, a huge mushroom cloud rose up. Chapter 328. It's only level 9, with a yield of 100,000 tons. It should be enough, right? On the top of a mountain in the distance, Lin Yilong was watching the nuclear explosion with sunglasses, while at the same time, he covered his eyes with the level 8 female magician who led him to escape, and only let go after the strong light of the nuclear explosion dissipated. Is this your ultimate weapon? Yes, no. Lin Yilong shrugged. We have two types of nuclear weapons. One is a strategic nuclear weapon, which will destroy a country if it is used, and its power is 10 or 100 times that of this, and that kind of weapon is generally not used randomly. The other is a tactical nuclear weapon, which is less powerful. In theory, it can be used, but it is generally not used in our place. I didn't expect that the first time I used this big treasure was here. You call this less powerful? The young female magician looked at the rising mushroom cloud and complained. I'm afraid that the forbidden spell released by the level 9 magician is just like this. It's different. Lin Yilong shook his head. After such a long time, Jia Zhao has a deeper understanding of the combat effectiveness of these practitioners in the magic world. Theoretically, these powerful beings of the 8th and 9th levels can generate much more energy than a 100,000 ton tactical nuclear weapon when they are fully engaged, and even more outrageous than those million-ton strategic nuclear weapons. However, these powerful people in the magic world are very poor in controlling the details of the energy they can generate. In other words, they can detonate these energies in various external forms, such as wind and fire, but they cannot control the way these energies are detonated, let alone hit the energy and cause damage to a certain point. Nuclear weapons are different. Under the blessing and guidance of human technology, at the moment of this thing's explosion, there is a temperature of tens of millions of degrees in the middle of the explosion. It is difficult for any life to survive in this temperature, let alone a 9th level dragon. Even a god can't withstand this shot. This is completely different from the forbidden spell released by the 9th level magician that they and Suyi had blindly guessed before, which is almost as lethal as a nuclear weapon. The forbidden spells released by those powerful magicians are indeed terrible, and some of them even have a larger coverage area than nuclear bombs, but in terms of core lethality, they are definitely not as good as the nuclear weapons of Blue Star. That's why Lin Yilong said it was different. After thinking for a while, he explained, do you think the forbidden spell released by a 9th level magician can kill the black dragon? The female magician thought about it and shook her head. I'm afraid not. It takes a long time to prepare for the release of the forbidden spell. The dragon can't give us so much time, and even if it is released, it will only hurt it at most. The dragon's physique is too terrifying compared with the forbidden spell. The 9th level magician is better at using some single magic to fight against this kind of dragon, but if it is hit by this nuclear weapon at close range, it will definitely die. Lin Yilong said confidently. Wei Wei looked at the slowly rising mushroom cloud and slowly took off the sunglasses on her face, but then she thought that this thing looked pretty good, so she put it back on and looked at the 9th level guard beside her. What do you think of the power of this thing? The 9th level female warrior immediately said, it's very strange. It looks like the power is about the same as some forbidden spells of 8th and 9th level magicians, but before it exploded, it felt much stronger than the forbidden spell. If I take the forbidden spell head on, I would at most be seriously injured. If it was a black dragon, it would probably only be slightly injured. But this thing just now gave me the feeling that once it hits the black dragon, the beast will be dead. Wei Wei raised a smile at the corner of her mouth, and then turned and walked towards Mengchuan City. Let someone check the scene to see if the dragon is dead or not. I'm leaving first. Yes. When she decided to meet this dragon, Wei Wei had already made the worst plan. If the negotiation failed, she would let this thing die here point. And if she wanted to kill a 9th level black dragon, but didn't want her men to suffer too many casualties, there were not many options in front of her in the previous transactions. A batch of enhanced tactical nuclear bombs sent by Jiazhou, as well as some modified medium-range and short-range air-to-ground missiles that can carry this kind of nuclear warhead, were just within her consideration. 100,000 tons. On Blue Star, it is a strategic nuclear weapon equivalent. However, considering the special situation in the magic world, after some research, the experts in Jiazhou believed that the ordinary tactical nuclear weapons with a yield of several thousand tons would not pose much threat to the high-level practitioners in these magic worlds, so they madly increased the yield of tactical nuclear weapons exported to the magic world to 100,000 tons. You know, the little boy that the bald eagle dropped on the territory of the foot basin chicken was only 15,000 tons. 2 shots. That is, 1 hit and 1 didn't make a sound. A tactical nuclear weapon of 100,000 tons is far from the norm on Blue Star, but it is very reasonable when facing those powerful individuals in the magic world. As for the missiles equipped with this kind of nuclear warhead, it is naturally impossible to use the intercontinental missiles with a range of thousands of kilometers or even more than 10,000 kilometers like on Blue Star. It is a new product developed by Jiazhou, based on some original air defense missile technologies. The advantage is that this thing is not large in size and has the characteristics of rapid response, precise strike, and extremely fast front-end acceleration of air defense missiles. The disadvantage is that it can't hit far. The farthest distance of this thing is less than 200 kilometers. A missile with a range of less than 200 kilometers, equipped with a nuclear warhead of 100,000 tons, is also a heaven-defying design combination on Blue Star, but it is just right in the magic world. After all, the target of this thing is individuals, and it is not like the nuclear weapons on Blue Star that often cross ultra-long distances to hit fixed targets. The front end of intercontinental missiles is either launched from bombers, launched at sea, or launched from land in the mainland. There is no possibility of being intercepted in the early stage, so the initial speed is naturally not pursued. Because the distance is far enough, there is no need to speed up too fast. Also, because the target is fixed and large enough, the aiming requirement is not that high. Is the error of 100 meters also considered an error for a nuclear warhead of hundreds of thousands of tons? In the magic world, the target is a powerful individual, and obviously there is no such condition of slowly launching, slowly speeding up, and then hitting with an error of hundreds of meters. Maybe it is just these 100 meters that are just enough for these powerful individuals to save their lives. Therefore, under the design concepts, based on the local characteristics of the magic world, this crazy combination of missiles and nuclear warheads appeared. Chapter 329. If this happened on Blue Star, and someone dared to give the order to launch this thing, I and the people who developed it would have to go to military court, right, Lin? Yiling also wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. The range is 180 kilometers, carrying a 100,000 ton nuclear warhead as a warhead, and the damage radius exceeds 10 kilometers. What's even more outrageous is that with some technical support that Xianyu group actively spilled over to Jiazhou. The speed of this missile is also terrifyingly fast. In the magic world, this thing is still a little bit struggling against these 8th and 9th level strongmen. If there were no magic arrays arranged by those magicians to hold the black dragon back, it would probably be difficult to cause any great damage to the black dragon, because you can't hit it at all. But on Blue Star, this is undoubtedly a killer weapon. It's no joke to kill an aircraft carrier formation with one shot. Because this missile uses a lot of Xianyu Group's new engine technology and material technology to build it. Although the range is not far, but its speed is fast. After launching it, it can increase its speed to the extreme within 30 seconds. That is, Mach 20. This speed is simply not something that the so-called air defense systems of those formations on Blue Star can withstand. Of course, on the sea, this range is definitely not enough. But even if some speed is sacrificed, and the range is increased a little, there is no problem. Because for the shipborne air defense system, there is no difference between a missile of Mach 20 and Mach 10, and they can't stop it. Don't listen to the countries led by the bald eagle on Blue Star who brag about Aegis and Patriot every day. In fact, the current weapon system of Blue Star is far more offensive than defensive. There are too many offensive weapons that have no countermeasures at all. This short-range hypersonic weapon can't stop it at all. In front of the palace of the Lord's mansion of Mengchuan City, the body of a giant dragon with only a few claws, teeth and some broken bones left was placed in the center of the hall. Those present were all Weewoos confidants. Looking at these broken bones at this time, they were a little speechless for a while. On the contrary, Lin Yiling and a group of senior commanders from Jiuzhou who were standing aside were amazed. Otherwise, the things in this other world are weird. A 100,000-ton nuclear bomb exploded in the face, but there were still a few bones left. I thought it was directly vaporized. Do you think this material has any use value? It can be preserved in a high temperature of more than 60 million degrees. If we can study and mix it into metal to make an alloy, wouldn't we have a high temperature resistant material for the inner wall of nuclear fusion? What do you want that thing for? Didn't Xianyu Group solve the problem of nuclear fusion a long time ago? It seems so. I heard that the alloy of their company is also outrageous. It is first class for tank armor. Be serious. Don't you look at the occasion and just chat and like. The relaxation of these Jiuzhou reinforcement, the expressions of these people in Mengchuan City are more subtle at this moment. In addition to being shocked that they actually killed a 9th level black dragon, there are actually other more important reasons. That is, in this incident, killing this black dragon is definitely not the end. It is very likely just the beginning point. Although the group of dragons on Dragon Island have been hiding for 10,000 years and have not launched a large-scale attack, only 1 or 2 dragons are occasionally expelled or driven out of Dragon Island. However, because of its isolation from the world, people on the mainland have no idea how many dragons there are in Dragon Island now. Apart from other things, although there were only a few million dragons left when the dragons retreated to Dragon Island, and the reproduction rate of this population was worse than that of the elves. After so long, there must be tens of millions of them. With the combat power of the dragons, no one would think that Dragon Island with so many dragons is a small force. It is no exaggeration to say that the strength of Dragon Island may be stronger than some human empires. If it makes a comeback, at least several empires will have to work together to repel the dragons again. But the problem is that these human empires are either fighting among themselves or fighting each other. Can they unite to deal with the dragons like 10,000 years ago? When the dragons come out in full force and humans are about to perish, they may abandon all their prejudices and unite to face the outside world. But it will never happen now. After all, it was Mengchuan City that killed the Black Dragon Prince. If the dragons said that they would only take action against Mengchuan City, I'm afraid no one would come to help them. The empires outside the Qiang Empire would probably be happy to see the Qiang Empire in trouble. And the princes of the Qiang Empire who are still fighting and eating chicken in the internal battles of the Qiang Empire are probably also eager for the north to become more and more powerful. And for Wei, who has already caught up, to die quickly. In the end, it may be only Mengchuan City that will face Dragon Island. How can they not be nervous? So many people have been present for half a day at the regular meeting every 3 days, and now few people have spoken. They are silently expressing their dissatisfaction. What happened to the dragon in the oil cave is no secret to the high-level people in Mengchuan City. But we teamed up with the Jiuzhou coalition and led people to kill the giant dragon, knowing that the other party was not a discarded child of Dragon Island, but a direct descendant of Dragon Island. He has not yet told the high-level officials of Mengchuan City present. In their view, this is undoubtedly a very willful and irresponsible behavior. It will put the entire Mengchuan City in danger. They also thought that there was a better solution to this problem. After all, dragons are intelligent creatures, not those brainless monsters. We knew what these people were thinking. But she didn't tell them about the gods' targeting of Mengchuan City. Several dragons scared these people so much. If she told them about the gods, wouldn't the group framework she had built with great difficulty collapse in a minute? When everyone ran away, who would work for her? Sometimes it's like this. You know that these people can't be relied on at critical moments, but you still need such people to exist. Otherwise you can't govern your territory at ordinary times. Seeing that the atmosphere was a bit dull, we glanced at a knight leader on the right point. The head of the group understood immediately and hurriedly came out and said, "Your Majesty, I have something to say." "Say it." "Just yesterday, the delegation we sent to negotiate with the northern aliens was killed. Those aliens rejected your request to negotiate in another place and killed our envoys, and they threatened us that if we don't show sincerity and go there in person, they will soon launch a large army to Mengchuan City and enter Mengchuan City to spend the winter." Chapter 330. Invade Mengchuan City to spend the winter. Who gave them the courage? I've said it before, these foreign races are ungrateful beasts, and you still insist on talking. In my opinion, they should be slaughtered, leaving no one alive. You seem to be a bit too extreme. Weren't we talking well a few days ago? I remember that the Elf King seemed to have agreed to change the location for negotiations. Why did he suddenly kill the delegation and stop talking? Did the envoy of the delegation say something wrong, or did something wrong to offend others? A bunch of stray dogs dared to kill our Mengchuan City envoys. How can there be right or wrong? Just fight. What? A joke. Right is right, wrong is wrong. A war will cause great suffering to all people, and if you don't even know the reason for the war, if we rashly start a war with those alien races again, who will be responsible? In my opinion, we need to first figure out why those alien races suddenly want to tear each other apart, after talking well before. If it is really our envoys who are rude first, this matter can obviously be reconciled. There is no need to start a war again, which is not good for anyone. That is, given our current situation, if we can have a good talk with these alien races and get their support, even Dragon Island should not dare to do anything rash. It is better to distinguish clearly. It is true that we should not make enemies casually, but the current situation is obviously not that simple. I don't think that it is just our envoys saying something wrong that will lead to such a result. There may be some other hidden secrets. I think so too, and from the previous alien races asking Her Majesty the Queen to go down, when I saw them negotiating for their territory and they were still unwilling to give in, I felt something was wrong. Anyway, I think there was a conspiracy from the beginning. They probably wanted to attack Her Majesty the Queen, and then take advantage of the chaos caused by the loss of our master in Mengchuan City to attack. We have not been fooled. They have been dragging their feet for too long. Seeing that winter is coming, they are anxious to kill our envoys, and then use this as an excuse to send troops south. It is entirely possible. As for whether the envoy said something wrong, or did something wrong, does it matter? It doesn't matter at all, friends. The dead can't talk. The place where the incident happened was in the barracks of the aliens. What exactly happened is up to them to make up. I also think that these aliens are seeing that we are reluctant to give in, and they are a little anxious and want to use this as an excuse one last battle with us before winter. This is not like the millions and millions before. According to the information we got before, because of our willingness to negotiate, the aliens in the north have completely gathered together just in front of the pass canyon controlled by our Mengchuan City. If we really have to fight, this time we may face alien warriors in the hundreds of millions, and hundreds of millions or even billions of logistics support troops. Once a war of this scale begins, Mengchuan City will not be easy to fight, even if it has deep trenches and high fortifications and super weapons from Kaiju. So try not to fight if you can. It is most important to understand the other party's intentions. By the way, I think so too. It is best to prepare winter clothes and armor to prepare for war, while facing the reason why those aliens go back on their words. The attitude they showed before was that they were very willing to talk to us. This change of mind was too sudden. It is necessary to find out the reason, and at the same time, preparations for war cannot be left behind. We must make plans for the worst. Although they were still worried about the dragon just now, when it comes to the aliens in the north, the whole court is not Sleepy Point. If they can't beat the dragon, Can they beat you? The two previous terrifying records of easily defeating millions of alien troops, although they were mainly just playing soy sauce, you can say, whether they participated or not, are they the winners? Anyway, the Jiao coalition forces that beat the aliens have not left yet, and they are not afraid of fighting with the aliens again. It's just that they think the aliens changed their minds a little too suddenly, and they want to find out the specific situation before fighting. Of course, when they really figure out why the aliens in the north suddenly don't want to talk, Wee thinks that these people may not dare to clamor for fighting anymore, and they may surrender faster than anyone else. They don't know why the aliens turned against them and want to start a war. But we can guess a little. This is most likely the work of the gods behind them. After all, for the gods, this matter that involves billions of lives is simply it was a small matter, and they didn't care at all. They could use this to test Mengchuan City and see if these troops suspected to be from another world had any big treasures that they hadn't taken out, and by the way, see if they could confirm that the reinforcement from Jiao were from another world. These were the most important things in this world with a restricted upper limit. All gods were extremely eager for a way out. In contrast, the so-called common people were not important to them at all. Finally, after an afternoon of debate, the result was to first find out what happened to the alien races in the northern border, and then recruit soldiers for war with Jiao's industrial capacity and Mengchuan City's large supply of high quality raw materials. There are now tens of millions of sets of backup armor in Mengchuan City's warehouses. This is just a reserve. In addition to several regular armies with specific organizations such as the Knights, Mengchuan City currently has nearly 2 million city defense troops. These city defense troops are all equipped with armor produced in Jiao, and with the massive transfer of accumulated artillery weapons like Kyushu clearing out infantry. Although it has only been less than a month since the last battle, they have trained more than 100,000 artillery gunners who can skillfully operate artillery, because there are a lot of artillery shells and artillery to practice. As for individual firearms, it is even more exaggerated. Except for the more than 2 million city defense soldiers, everyone can use high-powered machine guns and other firearms. The residents of Mengchuan City can all use guns. The entire northern border belongs to the 3 provinces in Weiwei's territory with hundreds of millions of people, and there are more people who can use firearms. This thing is of little use to middle and high-level warriors and magicians, but it is still very threatening to those low-level practitioners. Its horror lies here. Why do many countries on Blue Star that prohibit civilians from using guns generally prohibit the use of crossbows, but do not prohibit some compound bows that may be more powerful? The reason is simple: because a qualified archer needs long-term training and cultivation, but modern firearms and crossbows do not need it. As long as the ordinary people have no problem with their brains, they can shoot after a simple teaching. This is also the reason why Weiwei was able to popularize firearms in a short period of time. It can be said that as long as Weiwei is willing, she can now pull out an army of tens of millions of people who can use firearms proficiently. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331. In this situation where almost everyone is a soldier, and everyone who can use a gun can be regarded as a low-level warrior or magician, except for the slightly insufficient high-end combat power, Mengchuan City has actually expanded to a level that was almost unimaginable before. These high-ranking officials in Mengchuan City are well aware of this, and naturally have no fear of the northern aliens. And after this period of contact, they also understand the horror of these hot weapons. Many people, the thing this thing is least afraid of is that you have a lot of people. However, trading with Jiao to obtain these weapons is not without cost. After all, Jiao itself has more than a billion people to support, and it is impossible to maintain such a free and almost unlimited large amount of aid. In order to arm Mengchuan City and Weiwei's territory, Jiao now has more than a dozen large military factories, and 3 large steel mills work day and night to supply so many weapons in a short time. If you can't get the corresponding rewards quickly, just long-term investment. The risk of this level of investment is extremely high. Point. No matter how much Jiao trusts Suyi, no matter how much it thinks this other world has investment value, it is impossible to invest in it regardless of the cost. Point. Because it will affect the current economic order within Jiao. Point. The mineral resources from the surrounding areas of Mengchuan City perfectly solve these problems. Take oil as an example. Point. In the previous oil production process of less than a month, without external interference, Mengchuan City has provided Jiao with more than 200 million tons of crude oil, which is almost half of Jiao's annual imports of crude oil. Point. The value of this oil alone is enough to pay for the value of the weapons provided by Jiao, and there is even a surplus. There is no way. Although this oil field is not open air, it is under a cave, which is almost the same as the open air. It is too easy to mine. Point. Jiao has a bunch of super oil pumps, and they can pump violently as soon as the pipes are connected. Point. Pumping out 200 million tons in less than a month is not even the limit. If it weren't for the fact that Mengchuan City couldn't store the crude oil could only be temporarily stored in several large pools dug temporarily, which made it troublesome for Weiwei to collect it in the trading platform space every day, limiting the output. Point. At the speed of Jiao, if a few more batches of oil pumps were added, the annual oil output of Blue Star could be pumped out in 1 month. Point. The most outrageous thing is that with this method of pumping, there is no sign of any reduction in the oil in the cave oil field. Point. This proves that the judgment of some experts in Jiao was correct before. The underground oil lake did not come out of thin air, but there are cracks leading to deeper underground that are constantly emitting oil. Point. It's hard to say when this lake can be drained. Point. In addition to oil, the second batch of Jiao experts sent here also found a large number of various high quality minerals that are easy to mine near Mengchuan City. Point. Although the output is far less than that of the oil lake, because it is open air and easy to mine, it also has considerable benefits. There is no way the oil lake is simply out of the question. No matter how easy it is to mine, the mining speed cannot be as fast as pumping water. However, with the support of other minerals, even if the oil lake is temporarily suspended and cannot be pumped, the value of various minerals in Mengchuan City is enough to purchase industrial products and various weapons produced in Jiao. Point. Iron ore, copper ore, aluminum ore, coal mine, too many. Point. In the words of Jiao experts, he has been doing this business in Blue Star for a lifetime and has never seen any area with such rich mineral resources and such high density. Point. After getting familiar with the specific topography of this continent, I suddenly realized it. After looking at the huge mountain range that isolates the entire continent from cold and punishment like a wall of size, it is geological activities that cause various underground minerals to gather in this area on a large scale. Point. Mengchuan City is unique in resources. If it were other areas in the magic world, there might not be such rich resources. In short, Jiao has industrial products and arms, and Mengchuan City has mines around it. Point. The two sides hit it off immediately, and it can even be said that they can completely make up for each other's shortcomings. It's not just Mengchuan City that benefits. Jiao's economy, which was originally somewhat sluggish, has also been greatly boosted by the recent super large scale trade with Mengchuan City. Point. The market doesn't even know where the things produced by Jiao's sudden overcapacity have been sold. It only knows that a large number of factories in Jiao are working overtime to ship goods. The routine meeting ended, and after a simple plan for dealing with the northern aliens was finalized, the meeting was dispersed. We didn't take the initiative to mention the dragon, so the senior executives of Mengchuan City didn't take the initiative to ask. Anyway, when the dragon really comes, we will be the first target. They have plenty of time to run away, so there is no need to rush. After the meeting, Weiwei, who has seen many weapons from Jiao, looked at the large amount of Jiao coins exchanged for resources and felt that it was a bit too wasteful to hold so much money in her hands. Now that the war is imminent, it is better to find a way to spend it. She also remembered the weapons exhibition that Suyi mentioned occasionally before. She directly called for her personal female guard. As a princess of noble status, and a very famous one, she certainly had many expert guards around her in addition to Chuck, who had been responsible for protecting her safety since she was very young and was no different from her father. The one she trusted the most was the female guard named Lillian, who had always been by her side. Strictly speaking, This girl is also a member of the royal family of the Chiang Empire. However, compared with Wei Wei, who is the daughter of the late emperor, Lillian's status is a little worse. She is the daughter of the younger brother of the emperor of the Chiang Empire. That is, she is the daughter of a prince. Under normal circumstances, it is no problem to be named a duchess, but because she has been following Wei Wei since she was a child, and she has a high talent for martial arts. When Wei Wei was only at the 6th level of magic and martial arts, she was already at the 9th level of martial arts alone. So she gradually became Wei Wei's guard. The prince himself wanted to keep a low profile, and his wife was from the same family as Wei Wei's mother. So they were close, so he didn't ask too much. So strictly speaking, Lillian is not only Wei Wei's guard, but also her cousin and cousin. In short, the relationship is very complicated. But she is very clear about one thing, that is, this sister is not scheming, and is a very pure warrior, and because of some childhood experiences, I admired her cousin who sounded like a demigod in her early 20s, a 7th level magician and martial artist, but was actually a ridiculously weak rookie cousin. Lillian, what do you want to talk to me about? I want you to go to another place and help me buy a batch of powerful weapons. Chapter 332. Blue Star is a world of flowers. We learned about this a long time ago through some computers, mobile phones and other things Suyi gave her, as well as the contents compared to the endless wars and disputes and backward entertainment activities in the magical world. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Blue Star is a paradise. The trading platform actually has a special judgment mechanism for the creatures being traded. In the case of normal life trading, the intelligent life that must be traded must be in a voluntary state. If the person being traded does not voluntarily be sold, he cannot go to another world through the trading platform channel. Except, of course, the slave trade. Being judged as a slave is also very simple, as long as someone is stamped with the slave mark of the trading platform. But this thing is not a good thing. After being marked, the person will be controlled both mentally and physically by the person who holds the mark. As long as the master is willing, the slave can even lose his own thoughts. It would definitely not work to brand one's subordinates with the mark of slaves and then send them to Kaishu. But compared to the magical world, Blue Star is so beautiful. Wei Wei was worried that, after sending someone there, they would not come back. Even if Suyi is willing to cooperate with her in sending the person back, there's nothing you can do if he doesn't want to. In this case, it is natural to choose someone who is trustworthy and whose will is strong enough. In addition, this past trip was not just about purchasing some specialties from Kaishu. To a certain extent, this was also the first time Mengchuan City officially sent people to visit Blue Star and Kaishu. Therefore, this person's status in Mengchuan City and even in the magical world cannot be too low. So after some screening, Lillian, the daughter of the current prince of the Blazing Sun Empire, is obviously the best choice. And her own will is strong enough, and she doesn't have those messy little thoughts. Even if she knows that Blue Star is much better than the magic world, she will never have the idea of staying there and not coming back. When Lillian heard the task assigned to her by Wei Wei, she pointed at herself in confusion. Ask her to draw a sword and kill people. She is good at it. And ask her to put on palace clothes and pretend to be a lady. She can do it. But this makes her become a diplomat and even purchase some weapons that she may have never heard of. She really has no background at all. After all, aside from her identity as the prince's daughter and her strength as a 9th level warrior, she is just a girl under 20 years old. And because she spent a lot of time practicing, even compared to other children of the royal family, Lillian only knew a little bit about many palace etiquette and didn't understand much at all. She was a little afraid that she would mess up such an important thing. It's just you. Wei Wei patted her shoulder and said nonchalantly, just go and see Suyi. If you have any questions, if he doesn't help you, just call him brother-in-law. He's a big man. He can't just ignore his sister-in-law and not help her when she's in trouble, right? Lillian blinked in confusion. She didn't understand where her very powerful cousin learned these nonsense words, but since her cousin had already given the order, she had no choice but to grit her teeth and take over the job. The situation is very tense now. if there is no need to worry about the giant dragon for the time being, and if the aliens in the north really plan to fight another war with us, then the war will break out in no more than a month at the latest. We let out a sigh of relief. You have to work hard. Okay, I will definitely work hard to help Mengchuan City bring back more and more powerful weapons. The little girl immediately clenched her fists, but then she said worriedly, but if I'm not here, who will protect you, sister? Hey, there are many high-level warriors in Mengchuan City. You don't have to worry about this. Wei waved her hand nonchalantly. Even if she can't defeat an enemy that can be blocked by Lillian, with her 7th level magic and martial arts skills, she can still react quickly and hide on the trading platform. No one can do anything to her. If she can't even react, then Lillian can't protect her even if she's around. It doesn't make any difference. So, who is Wei among you? In the trading platform, Suyi, who was practicing, was suddenly approached by Wei. Looking at the two people in front of him, everyone else was dumbfounded. The main reason is that the two are so similar. They are almost carved from the same mold. Moreover, they were still wearing the same clothes, with similar makeup and hairstyle. Without talking, he really couldn't tell them apart. And, hell, although he thought Wei was beautiful before, he didn't realize she was this beautiful. Is it possible that two sisters who grew up the same would have some special buff standing together? This is too ridiculous. Ah, you stupid. Wei saw the surprise and confusion in Suyi's eyes and immediately smiled, as if her conspiracy had succeeded, and then introduced impatiently. This is Lillian, my cousin. Let me tell you this. Her father is my father's biological brother, and her mother is my mother's biological sister, and we are both twins. So it makes sense that we look a bit alike, right? Hello, I'm Lillian. Another girl greeted timidly. She is not very good at stage fright when dealing with outsiders. Anyway, she just follows her cousin's teachings and just pretends to be cold. But the person in front of him is obviously not an outsider after all. Wei told her personally that this was her brother-in-law. So Lillian was a little nervous. The sound was out. Suyi's mouth twitched. It was hard to recognize the two of them when they didn't talk, but he knew which one was Wei as soon as they spoke. He was too familiar with the princess's superiority when she spoke. On the contrary, Lillian looked like a timid girl. If Wei hadn't said anything, she wouldn't have thought that her status was so high. Logically speaking, in a place like the magic world, people with such top bloodline shouldn't be like Wei. Even if they know that the theory of bloodline is not good and try to restrain their superiority, can't they still erase the feeling of superiority in their gestures? Why does this girl look like an ordinary underage girl on Blue Star? The personalities of these two are too different. But after all, it was their first meeting. So Suyi restrained his usual impolite communication style with Wei and politely greeted Lillian. And then said to Wei, what's the matter? Tell me now, I'm busy. However, Wei sneered, tapped her face, and rolled her eyes at him. What are you busy with, Su? Yi was stunned, subconsciously reached out to wipe it, and saw a lipstick mark on his fingertips. Yuling usually doesn't wear makeup, and although Crossing Hen doesn't need makeup to increase her appearance, she has a hobby of cosplay after running to Blue Star, so she occasionally wears makeup. Just now, he was still playing role-playing with Crossing Hen, and he was called here and forgot to deal with it for a while. Ahem. It's not important. Anyway, if you're okay, I'll leave. I want to send her to your world to purchase some weapons and some goods. I can also formally visit Jiazhou and your Xianyu group. Chapter 333. It was Wei's idea to purchase weapons, mainly because she now had too many Jiazhou coins to spend. As for the visit to Jiazhou, it was actually the result of repeated invitations from two diplomats in charge of the diplomatic affairs of the magic world in the second batch of people sent by Jiazhou. They invited her many times enthusiastically, and Jiazhou did help Mengchuan City a lot, so she couldn't refuse all the time. So, even if it was not So convenient. She planned to send someone their point most of the time. It isn't appropriate to treat a country as a single person, and the way of dealing with interpersonal relationships cannot be completely substituted for the relationship between countries. But in some things, it is still necessary to substitute point. For example, reciprocity point. In addition to normal transactions, Jiaozhou actually provided a lot of free assistance and help to Mengchuan City. And also gave her, the Lord of Mengchuan City, many gifts. It is also very undignified in the magic world to only receive gifts and not give them back. Point. As a dignified princess, the current queen of Mengchuan, she can't afford to lose this person point, so she must return the gift. Point. It happened that when I was chatting with Suyi a few days ago, I heard him mention that there was a defense exhibition in Jiaozhou that was about to be held. Xianyu Group also received an invitation and would display some new equipment produced by Xianyu Group at that time. Point. This can be regarded as the prosperity of Jiaozhou. Point. So why not take this opportunity to do both things? Mengchuan City seems to be in a tense situation now. The aliens in the northern border are ready to attack at any time. In fact, there are more than 2 billion aliens who want to rush in and approach Mengchuan City. Even if they start to move their camps and advance now, it will take at least half a month to march. Point. It is still unknown whether Dragon Island will start a war for one of the sons of the Black Dragon King. Even if a war really starts, it must be prepared. Point. It is difficult to break out a large-scale war in a short period of time. Point. Mengchuan City is not short of a high-end combat force like Lillian. Okay, let's go now. So, Yi didn't care about it. Point. Let alone sending diplomats to exchange gifts. He doesn't care, even if Mengchuan City and Jiaozhou directly establish formal diplomatic relations anyway. The door to the two worlds is in his hands. Even if the portal is opened in the future, any communication between the two sides cannot bypass him, the member of the Blue Star region representing the trading platform. Point. On the contrary, it can save him a lot of trouble in communicating back and forth between the two sides. Why not? Well, by the way, she is unfamiliar with the place and doesn't understand those messy things. You have to take care of her after you go there. Wee said with some worry, and then waved her hand and said, as for what she wants to buy and purchase, you don't have to worry about it. Buy whatever she wants. I have plenty of money. Good guy. Is this the confidence of a rich woman? Suyi knew that when he had earned a lot of Jiaozhou coins from the transaction with Jiaozhou, but he was still a little uncertain. How much did you give her? Not much. I gave her all the Jiaozhou coins I had. Anyway, there is no use for me to stay in the magic world, so I asked her to take them to Blue Star. If there is really nothing good to buy, I will put them in the bank in your world to earn interest. How much is it? About more than 100 billion. Wei's tone highlighted that she didn't care. Point. Anyway, this kind of money is just a few pieces of paper for her. It is useless except for purchasing goods from Jiaozhou. Point. It is even easier to get it. Just dig a few times in the mines all over the mountain and pump oil from the lake for a few days. So, Yi wanted to complain about her because she had no idea about money, but after thinking about it, he gave up. Point. She has never lacked money since she was a child. Even with her status, no one dared to take her money for anything she wanted in the magic world. Point. It would be too difficult for such a person to have any idea about currency in the short term. Point. Although more than 100 billion is not a small amount, it is nothing for Mengchuan City and Jiaozhou, or even for Xianyu Group. Just squander it. Forget it this time. Next time, I will find an economics teacher to teach you what foreign exchange is and what it is used for. Money is not spent like this. If you want to be the empress of the Qiang Empire, you can't do it without understanding economics. Don't become a female tyrant, which will be too embarrassing for the members of the trading platform. Let's go. As soon as the voice fell, without waiting for Wee, who had just spent a large sum of money and was still complacent, to say anything, he signed the contract for the transaction of Lillian at the speed of light and ran away directly. Point. When Wee realized that Suyi was insulting her, she had already left the trading platform. Point. She could only stomp her feet to express her dissatisfaction. Point. However, although she had no concept of money, she was not stupid. Point. From Suyi's words, she still heard some other meanings. Economics. What is foreign exchange reserve? After A moment of silence. She remembered the female officer who was in charge of connecting with her at the Jiazhou reinforcement headquarters besides Su Yi. This was the person from Blue Star that she had the most contact with. After knowing each other for so long, the two of them actually had a very good relationship. Point being assigned to do this kind of work and specifically communicating with her, the mayor of Mengchuan City. The female officer must have very profound knowledge. Point a lot of Weiwu's knowledge about Blue Star actually came from her. Su Yi said a bunch of words that she didn't understand and ran away. Now she was curious, so she naturally had to find someone to ask. Those people from Jiazhou who worked in Mengchuan City were naturally the best people to ask. Point unlike Weiwu who was preparing to study. Point Su Yi, who returned to Blue Star, did not immediately release Lillian from the space of the trading platform. Point because he just appeared in the office of the Xianyu Group headquarters building, a pair of jade arms wrapped around his neck, and Xinghan, who exhaled like orchid, came directly in front of him. What did the princess want to see you about? Why did you come back so soon? Do you want to finish the unfinished business just now? Su Yi then noticed that the cosplay costume she was wearing, which was made of excellent material, but was already tattered, had not been returned yet. Point obviously, she was still waiting for him to come back. Point obviously, things cannot be abandoned halfway, so there is no need to say more. Next. Point an hour later, the huge office and his home finally calmed down. Point after the robot vacuum cleaner cleaned the room, everyone in the room took a shower and changed clothes, and everything was ready. Su Yi released Lillian from the space. Point there is no concept of time in the space of the trading platform, so for Lillian, she just saw a black and bright scene in front of her eyes, and then she appeared in a brand new place. Point a spacious and bright office, the blue sea and golden beach outside, the floor to ceiling windows, and the bustling crowds on the street below. Brother-in-law. Is this Blue Star? Wait, what are you calling me? Chapter 334. Sister, brother-in-law, isn't that right? Lillian asked timidly. Her big eyes seemed a little at a loss. No, I what? Su Yi was about to say that this was of course wrong, but Yuling beside him reacted quickly and pulled him. Okay, it's just a name. Call me whatever you want. You are Lillian, right? How old are you? 10, 19, 19, an adult. That's good. I'm Yuling. Ah. You are Princess Yuling of the Elves. I asked Sister Weiwu where she sent you before, but she never told me that you also came to Blue Star. In fact, the two had met in Mengchuan City, but compared with that time, Yuling now has a lot of changes in both her dress and temperament. In addition, Lillian had just arrived, and her attention was all on the surrounding environment and Su Yi, so she didn't recognize her for a while. Point, but compared to the confusion of suddenly coming to a strange world just now, after seeing the acquaintance, the little girl obviously relaxed. Point, after chatting with her for a few words, Yuling quickly got the reason why she called Su Yi brother-in-law from her, although she didn't like this kind of thing mixed with politics. She was a princess of a country, and she was not stupid. Naturally, she would know nothing about this. She knew what Wei was planning. As soon as she heard it. Point she could also guess that, since Wei dared to do this, it meant that Su Yi's attitude was ambiguous. She probably didn't completely accept the marriage between the two sides, nor did she completely reject it. Point Yuling had no opinion on this, although Su Yi treated her very well. Even now everyone in Xianyu Group unanimously believed that she was the boss's wife. Point, but she always knew her position very clearly. Su Yi was good to her, and she was grateful, but she would not think that she was qualified to be jealous and interfere with Su Yi's decision. Point so, after asking the answer for Su Yi in a tactful way, she didn't ask any more questions. Su Yi, who understood the situation, was also a little speechless, but he was too lazy to correct it, so he just accepted the title. Point besides, they are guests. They come to Blue Star not only to purchase some weapons and spend money, but also to visit Xianyu Group and Jiazhou. Point, so it is definitely not okay to be too casual. Point, after handing over Xianshu and letting it arrange a welcome ceremony, Su Yi called Old Man Lin again. What? Mengchuan City in the magic world sent an envoy to visit Jiazhou formally. As soon as Old Man Lin answered the phone, He was shocked by this sudden event. As the saying goes, diplomacy is no small matter, especially when the magic world may also involve the security of various resources such as energy and minerals in Jiaozhou in the future. How to deal with diplomatic relations with the regime in the magic world needs to be more cautious. Mengchuan City is not a big force in the magic world. The comprehensive strength of the major human empires, Dragon Island, the northern alien races, and other forces is more than one level stronger than Mengchuan. If it were not for the support of Xianyu Group and Jiaozhou, Mengchuan City would have collapsed long ago. But no matter what, the only channel for Blue Star to send its forces to the magic world is in the hands of Wei Wei, the mayor of Mengchuan City. Without her consent, no force can enter the magic world. So no matter how weak Mengchuan City is, it is currently the only potential ally of Jiaozhou in the magic world. To put it bluntly, for Jiaozhou now, Mengchuan City in the magic world is more important than all other countries on Blue Star, except Jiaozhou itself. Including the Bald Eagle. Because after being messed around by Xianyu Group for several times, the Bald Eagle has basically become honest and can't laugh at all. And essentially, due to industrial hollowing out and other reasons, the Bald Eagle has also lost its threat to Jiaozhou. In this case, Mengchuan City, which had not established formal diplomatic relations before, suddenly sent an envoy, so Jiaozhou couldn't help but treat it with caution. There is no delegation, only one envoy. She is the cousin of the Lord of Mengchuan City, the daughter of the younger brother of the former emperor of Qiang Empire, and is a princess of some kind. She has a very special status in Mengchuan City, but no clear position. Most of the time, she serves as Wei Wei's personal guard, and is one of her most trusted people. Informal, high-level contact. Old Man Lin suddenly realized, yes, the permanent space-time channel you mentioned before has not been built yet, and communication between the two worlds is not so easy. It may not be easy for them to send a professional diplomatic team over in the short term, so sending someone who has no clear position, but has a high social status, and is very trusted by the authorities, to come over for contact is also very sincere, and has a good attitude. The person is in your Xianyu Group now, right? When do you plan to let her come? Anytime, but there is a problem in front of you, or else. Suyi reminded, what standard should she be received with? A distinguished guest from another world should of course be received with the highest standard. The above people will definitely agree, so you don't have to worry about it. Old Man Lin said indifferently. No, you seem to have made a mistake. Suyi reminded again, the highest level of reception. If I'm not wrong, I'm afraid there will be an honor guard in the imperial capital to pick up people, and the road will be closed for the motorcade to pass, right? Such a big formation will receive a girl under 20 years old. What are your plans then? How to announce this to the outside world? What should the host say? Old Man Lin was stunned for a moment. Only then did he realize that this matter was not as easy to handle as he thought. Jiaozhou has a lot of experience in receiving important foreign guests. He subconsciously felt that, since he was an important guest, he could directly arrange the highest level reception and leave the rest of the process to the staff of the relevant departments. But the sensitivity of Lillian's identity was ignored. She comes from another world. Yes, with such a big battle going on, how can we explain to the whole world who this is? But if it is so secretive that outsiders don't dare to know about it, then there may be a risk of neglecting the distinguished guest's Kaishu has been a land of etiquette since ancient times. Even if the whole story is explained clearly, the messenger from the magic world doesn't care about these things at all, but she doesn't care about it herself. After returning to the magic world, she truthfully reports the news to Mengchuan City. Will the people in Mengchuan City care? Although logically speaking, the relationship between the two parties is not strictly equal. On the contrary, Kaishu takes the initiative in their interactions, because even without the resources of Mengchuan City, Kaishu is not impossible. But without the weapons provided by Kyushu, Mengchuan City would probably be very difficult in the next war, but that's not how diplomacy works in many cases. If you feel that when two countries get along with each other, your country is stronger and has more initiative, then you should not treat the other party as a human being. There may not be any problems in the short term, but in the long run, something will definitely happen. This is completely inconsistent with Kyushu's diplomatic strategy. Chapter 335. Hey, this is a bit tricky. Old Man Lin scratched his hair. This kind of thing is a dilemma. Choosing to receive hidden information quietly may cause dissatisfaction in Mengchuan City and lay the foundation for future interactions. Many times, conflicts are a process of continuous accumulation. When the accumulation reaches a certain level, they will naturally explode. Therefore, in serious diplomacy, efforts should be made to avoid such seemingly inconspicuous things. If you choose to do it with great fanfare, you can only disclose the identity of the other party. Although Suyi had vaguely revealed some things about other worlds before, he did not put the matter on the table after all. If Jiazhao chooses the latter, it must make the matter clear to the whole country. If the whole of Jiazhao knows something, it means that the whole world knows it. What are your Xianyu group planning to do? After thinking for a long time, he couldn't think of a way to get the best of both worlds, so Old Man Lin wanted to see what the Xianyu group had planned. Of course we want to do it in a beautiful way, Suyi said matter-of-factly. Xianyu group is a private enterprise, not a listed company. We can accept anyone we want with whatever specifications we want, and we don't need to explain to anyone. What's the problem? To put it bluntly, Xianyu Group didn't even bother to disclose its financial reports to the public, and no one dared to check his accounts. What if he, the big boss, entertained a young girl on a whim with a standard that exceeded the level of receiving a head of state? I have money and plenty of time to do, so why not just be happy, then? You are awesome. Old Len's mouth twitched, and he realized that the nature of Xianyu Group and Jiazhao official were completely different. But the problem is right in front of us, and it cannot be solved by saying something awesome. He couldn't think of any solution after much thought, so he could only hang up the phone first, saying that he would discuss it with his colleagues and contact Suyi later when the result was known. This discussion lasted half a day. That night, Old Man Lin called again. What, have you come up with the result of your discussion? Suyi said with interest. He was really curious about what operations Jiazhao could come up with in this dilemma. But the first sentence of Old Man Lin was not to answer his question, but to ask very seriously, drive. Su, do you think, is it time to directly disclose the existence of another world? As soon as these words came out, Suyi was stunned for a moment. Because according to the previous agreement between the two parties, Suyi planned to disclose the existence of the other world after Suyi built a long-term and stable time and space channel to connect the two worlds. After all, according to Kyushu's understanding, the core technology of Xianyu Group is to master the time and space channel for trading with other worlds. However, this channel is very unstable and the technology is not yet mature enough. It can trade in large quantities for goods. It is not that easy to travel back and forth between the two worlds in your adult life. We have to wait for Xianyu Group's technology to advance to a certain level before we can stably connect the two worlds and establish a stable space-time channel. At that time, announcing the existence of another world would be the safest and most ideal situation. As we all know, technological breakthroughs take time, and for this kind of high-end and complex technology, the breakthrough time is completely a mystery. Suyi previously said it was a few months. The people in Kyushu subjectively believe Suyi's statement. But objectively, we have to guard against leaving some redundancy. Otherwise, if they fail to build a stable channel as scheduled and completely connect the two worlds, they will announce the events of the other world in advance. Isn't that a joke? After all, you have told the whole world that another world exists, but there are people who want to visit or take a look at the other world. but you don't want to show it to them. So does this alternate world exist or not? If so, Suyi didn't care about this situation. After all, everyone knows that he is not a good person, and few people want to die and come to question him about this and that point. But as an official organization, if Kaishu announces it in advance, but fails to let the world see the portal linking to another world as scheduled, then it will definitely be ridiculed by various unknown creatures at home and abroad. So, you want to directly announce the things about the other world, and then naturally receive the people of Mengchuan City with great fanfare. So, Yi immediately guessed what they were thinking. Yes, we discussed it carefully, and found that, even if we announce the existence of another world and attract the attention of all countries and organizations around the world, no one will be able to snatch things from our two families. Old Man Lin gave answered in the affirmative. What? About nuclear weapons? Don't they all have big mushrooms? Aren't you afraid that they will use them to threaten and blackmail you? Darn. Su should understand that when you reveal the starship, the deterrent of nuclear weapons to the world is far less than before. Old Man Lin said nonchalantly. To put it bluntly, this thing is essentially a game of the brave. Nuclear weapons cannot destroy all mankind. This is no secret. The reason why its deterrence is so great is that in addition to being able to attack various industrial facilities of the opponent and blow the opponent back to the cold weapon age, the most important thing is that it can directly behead, even if those in power insist on launching a war regardless of casualties on any scale. They still have to care about their own personal safety. Nuclear weapons are a weapon that can directly threaten those in power. Even if there are things like nuclear bunkers, the survival rate of those in power is much higher than that of ordinary people. Compared with the previous wars, where they were able to survive alone, with nuclear weapons afterwards, the wars between these big powers will obviously be much more dangerous than before the advent of nuclear weapons. At this time, whether to use nuclear weapons is actually a game of courage between those in power to a certain extent. Everyone is betting that the other party will not dare to launch nuclear weapons for fear of death. So until now, only 2 of these weapons have been used in actual combat. After all, even if you are not dead after the nuclear weapons are thrown at each other, you will still be in ruins, which is difficult for the powerful to accept. But it's different now. Jiaozha owns the 2 landing craft you gave us, and maintains a good relationship with your Shianayu group. The Shianayu group has another huge starship hovering in the orbit of Blue Star, which is enough to accommodate a large number of people. People survive for a long time. Under these preconditions, Kaishu has already won this game of bravery. Because even if a nuclear war is really going to happen, they have nothing to do with our top management, and they cannot completely destroy Kaishu's huge industrial system. After the destruction and nuclear war, it is time for Kaishu to liquidate the whole world. This is already obvious, therefore, their nuclear blackmail has no effect at all. Now that we have the upper hand in the nuclear game, the risk of triggering a nuclear war has dropped to the lowest point since the emergence of nuclear weapons. Everyone knows now that once a nuclear war starts, no matter how we explode, the ultimate winner will only be Kaishu. And you may not have noticed that there is a very popular saying within the Western camp right now. That is, the Shianayu group already has all the means to fight against nuclear weapons. Chapter 336. This statement is not groundless, but what Shianayu group has demonstrated in terms of high precision technology has completely exceeded these people's cognition, forming an inherent impression. There are even some bald eagle scholars who have designed a device called an anti-ballistic missile system, based on the technical aspects of various products developed by the Shianayu group. In theory, this thing can be used as an anti-missile system to target intercontinental missiles. The interception efficiency at the end of the missile can reach 95%, which is a very scary probability, and is almost the same as complete interception. And the most important thing is that the scholars and weapons experts of Bald Eagle designed this set of theoretically possible anti-missile systems of Shianayu Group, based on some information revealed on Shianayu Group's current products. After seeing it, the experts nearby also organized a wave of verification, through cooperation with Shianshu AI of Shianayu Group. To verify some technical communication, we found that this thing seems to be really feasible, and the related technology Shianayu groups have it. Currently, we are already working on building this kind of anti-missile weapon. Of course, theory is theory, and it is not that easy to put it into practice. According to experts from the Kyushu Weapons and Equipment Research Institute, Shiranayu Group has a strong understanding of related technologies and raw materials. Without any restrictions, it would take 5 or 8 years to develop this anti-missile system, and it would be difficult to build it quickly, but at least the feasibility of this set of things is absolutely no problem. The most important thing is that the Western camp does not know whether your Shiranayu Group has such things in hand, let alone whether you will export them in large quantities if you do. Gave us Geo's how. Judging from the technology of Shiranayu Group, they believe that Shiranayu Group definitely has similar products. It's just that it has not been made public. After all, this is a theoretical product that they combined, based on the analysis of Shiranayu Group's existing product technology. They can think of it just like a cat, and they don't believe that Shiranayu Group will not have anything similar. Look, Western scholars believe that it is highly likely that Shiranayu Group has it, and Kyushu will also have it, so the current mainstream view in the West is that it is best not to fight a nuclear war with the East, because this is a completely unequal war. Kyushu and Shiranayu Group have countermeasures against Western nuclear weapons, but they have no way to deal with Kyushu's nuclear weapons. Being able to get bombed is obviously something a fool would do. This social view has also had a certain influence on the top leaders of the Western camp countries to a certain extent, and anti-war sentiment is also rising among the people. After realizing the current tense international atmosphere, people in many countries organized a large number of demonstrations and slogans. Basically, they reject war and want peace. The anti-war sentiment even surpasses the Reconstruction period after World War II. Many times things are so ironic. When the Western camp is at its peak and is beating the bones of people all over the world, they are shouting anti-war, but they are just being silly and do not look at the reasons for the war. On the contrary, now that their advantages are gone, their interests in various fields have been eroded by us. With their own interests harmed, the anti-war movement has reached its climax. Therefore, these people are not really anti-war, but realize that they really cannot defeat it. That's why we resisted the war. But no matter what, the impact of this social trend on high-level officials is certain. So, after discussions among our think tanks, we believe that the risk of a nuclear war has now dropped to a historically low level. We can definitely take this opportunity to announce the news about the existence of another world. The biggest risk is not nuclear blackmail or the like, but whether the stable space-time channel of your Shiranayu Group can indicate the completion of the construction. We here strongly believe in the period you mentioned, but sometimes we do things you can't act based on emotion. There is no conflict between personal belief and group caution. I hope you can understand. So after going round and round, I finally have to see if I can do it here. Suyi looked at his trading platform membership points balance point. Well, more than 8,000 point. There is not much difference between the 10,000 points. Besides, there is a small vault at Weewoo's place. If you really want to open the permanent portal now, it's not impossible to discuss it with Weewoo. Point. This is not a big deal. Point. Dang even gave a positive answer. 1 month later, the first portal connecting the magical world will be built on Penglay Island, the headquarters of Shiranayu Group. Technically, we are confident enough. Now we have entered the time of laying and constructing the technology demonstrator and equipment. You don't have to worry about it. The time is not too long. You have now announced the existence of the magic world, and from time to time release some things obtained from the magic world. If you delay for a few months before announcing the time and space door to the magic world, there should be no problem at all. No. So, Director Su also thinks it's okay to announce the news about the magical world directly through Kyushu's official channels? Old Man Lin asked with some surprise after hearing this. No problem. Okay, then I will start preparations here. When do you plan to bring her to Kyushu? Where exactly does she want to go? Come to the imperial capital directly, or go to other places to visit? Su Yi thought for a while and said, just tomorrow morning. It's already past 9 o'clock in the evening here, and it should be early morning in Kyushu, right? 5 hours later, at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning in the imperial capital, I will take her to the airport in the imperial capital of Kyushu. There, is nothing to prepare for this kind of thing point. As long as the grand reception is decided, Jiao has a complete plan for the relevant procedures and methods, and a few hours are enough for them to prepare. Lillian's visit to Jiao this time is actually mostly symbolic. After all, she doesn't look like an experienced politician who comes to negotiate conditions that two sides don't have any particularly important core interests to discuss now. Naturally, there is no need to notify Jiao too long in advance to prepare various response plans. Okay, I will go to the airport to pick her up in person. Old Man Len's response was very decisive. By the way, in addition to visiting Xianyu Group and Jiao on behalf of Mengchuan City, she also wants to visit the recent weapons exhibition held in Jiao and purchase some weapons to take back. Remember to arrange it. Suyi reminded. That's easy. Although this weapons exhibition has attracted many visitors due to the participation of your Xianyu Group, many high-tech weapons have been added, and it can be said that it is difficult to get a ticket. But if such a distinguished guest wants to participate, there is always a way. The biggest problem has been solved. Old Man Lin naturally doesn't care about such trivial problems. He didn't realize how much money this messenger from Mengchuan City had in his pocket. Chapter 337. Hey, the authorities have issued a new notice. From 8 to 9 this morning, the road in the imperial capital will be closed again. What's going on? I saw it too. It is said that a big foreign figure is going to visit Jiao. Judging from the scene, it is probably the head of state or president of a certain country. And it is definitely not a senior official from a small country. Small countries generally don't have such a face. No way. Recently, I haven't seen any news about any big foreign figure visiting Jiao. This is too sudden. I just searched the internet and couldn't find it. A few days ago, a small country came to help us. The scale of the reception was not small, but it was definitely not comparable to this. The official website has just updated the list of reception personnel. The head of the diplomatic department, the head of the economic department, the head of the state asset management department, and the living fossil Lin Leo has come out. This is too outrageous. There are department level leaders, and Lin Leo, a national level big man, is the last to pick him up at the airport. Who is he, anyway? I only know that, even if the president of the Bald Eagle came, there would definitely not be such a reception. Will it be Mr. Su from the Xianyu Group who is going to be received? What's the difference between this and that? Mr. Su doesn't need anyone to pick him up. He goes back to Jiao just like going home. He goes to Jiangcheng whenever he has something to do. Jiangcheng locals are almost tired of seeing those low Earth orbiting vehicles on weekdays. Why does he need such a big reception when he goes home? That's right. Mr. Su is indeed worthy of such a reception, but it is completely unnecessary. I have seen Mr. Su's low Earth orbiting vehicles more than once in the imperial capital. My friend also works in the office and often sees Mr. Su. He said that if Mr. Su came to the imperial capital, he would come directly and would not even bother to say hello. There would be no such mess. This is clearly a very high standard diplomatic reception procedure. Mr. Su is now a Jiao citizen officially recognized by Jiao. He also considers himself a Jiao person. How can a family use diplomatic reception? That's nonsense. It's definitely not him. Then who else in the world is worthy of such a reception in Jiao except him? You ask me, who should I ask? But you can wait for a while. Generally, the official will ask Jiao daily to write a press release to explain the situation. Now it's just a routine notice from the official diplomatic department. It's not very clear in the details, and the subsequent press release should make it clear. The reception time is 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and the media press release should be here soon, not right away. Jiao Daily has already issued a brief press release. I'll copy it for you brothers. Warmly welcome the chief diplomat of the Dream River Kingdom under the Qiang Empire of the Magic World, Miss Lilian Qiang, to visit Jiao. In order to welcome the guests from afar, the Jiao diplomatic department has prepared the highest standard reception ceremony for Miss Lilian. Wait, who are you going to receive? What world? Which country? No, buddy, is this still Chinese? What are you doing to me? Magical world, Blazing Sun Empire, Dream River Kingdom, Chief Diplomat. Sure enough, I shouldn't have stayed up late. I didn't sleep until 4 in the morning, and I had hallucinations. Man, I can prove that staying up late does cause hallucinations. I actually saw official media report that people from another world came to visit Jiaozhou in my lifetime. This is too abstract. No, this is really outrageous, and there is no sign at all. It's too abrupt. With the official release of the news by Jiaozhou, a group of people who stayed up late at night were directly confused. The ultra high level reception notice released by the official diplomatic department at the beginning aroused the curiosity of many people, and they have been guessing who is worthy of Jiaozhou's reception. With such standards, in addition to guessing that it was Su Yi, some people even guessed that it was an alien. After all, Jiaozhou has just cooperated with Xianyu Group to establish a long-term base on the moon not long ago. Maybe they encountered aliens. Although the alien theory is outrageous enough, many people actually believe it. Because it is really hard to find someone on Blue Star who needs such a high-level reception from Jiaozhou now. Qualified Su Yi doesn't need it at all, because they are family members, and they don't talk about different things. Using diplomatic etiquette to receive them will make them feel alienated. This is something that even a fool would not do. So under the expectation of everyone, Jiaozhou Daily gave a less detailed explanation to the visitor. Netizens never expected that the answer was even more outrageous than aliens. It turned out to be a fucking person from another world. For a while, in the early morning, when the internet was least active, the relevant news suddenly became popular and attracted the attention of countless people. Many people who were still awake couldn't believe their eyes after seeing the news. They called their sleeping relatives and friends at night to watch it together, in case they were hallucinating or dreaming. The main reason was that this matter was too outrageous, and there was almost no warm-up before. It was in such a late night that the matter was announced in an extremely bland way. Countless people were shocked. Bald Eagle Empire, Black Palace. I have to say that the quality of the Black Palace is quite good. Before, under a storm in Xinghan, the entire Washington was almost reduced to ruins, but the Black Palace remained standing and could be used again after a simple repair. However, after that incident, everyone in Bald Eagle dared not laugh anymore, and they all kept their heads down. But keeping a low profile does not mean being isolated from the world. On the contrary, they are now more concerned about the affairs of Jiaozhou and Xianyu Group. The early morning of Jiaozhou is the afternoon of Bald Eagle. When Liu Dengtao, who was handling official business, saw the information about Jiaozhou sent by his secretary urgently, he was dumbfounded. Wait, you mean that Jiaozhou is going to receive a person from another world with the highest diplomatic etiquette in history? Yes, sir. Is this reasonable, sir? Theoretically it is unreasonable. But theoretically, it is even more unreasonable that the woman's words that they triggered the largest storm in the history of Bald Eagle and destroyed Washington. So, what do you mean, sir? I mean, this could be true. WTF. What the hell are these Jiaozhou people doing? Warm tips. The website is about to be revised, which may cause the loss of reading progress. Please save the bookshelf and reading records in time. Screenshots are recommended for saving. We apologize for the inconvenience caused to you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338. It is not just the Bald Eagle who is confused. It is not an exaggeration to say that everyone in the world who is paying attention to this matter is also confused. Because this is really too outrageous. Of course, the information released by the official media of Jiaozhou will not use the term otherworld. This is not only disrespectful to the messengers from the magic world, but also seems to casual. But judging from the current situation, it is better to say that it is a different world than a magic world. You are just saying it now. Who knows what it is like? Most people probably start brainstorming after getting this information, linking Jiaozhou, visitors from the other world, and Xianyu Group. combined with some topics about the other world that Suyi had said in public before, they suddenly realized it. It turns out that those who guessed that the incomprehensible technological products of Shianayu Group were obtained from aliens were really wrong. This is obviously technology from another world. From this, it can be concluded that this other world must be a world with highly developed technology. This statement will make most people accept it. Because people cannot imagine things they have never seen or cannot understand. The supernatural power of magic is obviously something that is difficult for the people of Blue Star to understand now. If it is replaced with super high technology, it will be much easier to understand. Even if the people of Blue Star cannot understand the principles of this technology, they will not have too many emotional fluctuations after seeing it except for surprise, and will not have the kind of confused feeling of being in another world. But now the official of Jiuzhou is talking about the magic world, instead of using the so-called other world, to summarize it in general. Magic world, magic, these two words are a bit too much for the current Blue Star. It is a completely new version that everyone has never played before, let alone understanding it. I'm afraid that if someone releases magic in front of you, you will not even understand the principle of this thing. It is very normal to find it difficult to accept Jiuzhou's statement for a while. However, compared with the shock and confusion of ordinary people after receiving the news, the official organizations of various countries have their own thoughts. After receiving the news, the Shianayu Group has made a lot of noise recently. In just less than half a year, it has developed to a level that is much stronger than most countries in the world. It is not an exaggeration to say that it has developed to the point where it is almost invincible on Blue Star, who would not be confused by the speed of development. Before, they had many questions about the things that Shianayu Group brought out. They wondered why Suyi could continuously come up with all kinds of outrageous technologies and products without any warning, shocking the world. This is completely unreasonable. Other smaller technologies and products are fine, as long as there is enough R/U0026D strength and corresponding resource support. It can indeed be secretly researched and developed. But you said that the starship that is several kilometers long was made by your Shianayu Group on Blue Star. That is too insulting to people's IQ. Anyone with a little bit of brains knows that this thing can never be produced on Blue Star, otherwise it is absolutely impossible that no news would be spread before the ascension. Building an aircraft carrier can be monitored by satellites 24 hours a day, not to mention building a starship that is much larger than an aircraft carrier. This kind of behemoth, when the weather is slightly better, I'm afraid that those low orbit satellites can directly see it. In addition, the resources that need to be mobilized are also an astronomical figure. People with a certain amount of experience can guess that there is a problem from this abnormal flow of resources. Just follow up, and you will know what Shianayu Group is building. To be able to build a starship on the Blue Star without telling anyone, unless all the countries in the world are blind. But it just appeared in front of everyone, and no matter from what angle you look at it, it is indeed a brand new starship. During the opening days, the interior was photographed by the invited reporters and lucky draw winners. Many of the furnishings inside are unopened, and there is not even a blanket in the crew dormitory and other places, let alone the slightest trace of life. This is almost a starry beast that appeared out of thin air, and it is still brand new. Many people have discovered such strange things, and it has always been a hot topic of discussion on the internet, and Shianayu Group's attitude towards this is to ignore it. Don't ask. If you ask, we made it ourselves. Don't worry about how it was made. And now, if Jiuzhou has only confirmed the existence of the other world, then it will make the previous suspicion of the source of these technologies of Shianayu Group a logical closure. Those incomprehensible technologies of Shianayu Group are all from the other world. But Jiuzhou said it was the magic world. This is the real reason why many people can't understand it. But it doesn't matter whether you can understand it or not. Official organizations in many countries have keenly realized one thing from it, that is, it is definitely profitable. No matter what this so-called magic world is like, It represents a whole new world behind it point. That is to think of such a brand new and vast market point. This is a huge temptation that no company or country can refuse point. Therefore, less than an hour after the news was announced, the top officials of official agencies in any country with some administrative ability in the world held an emergency meeting to discuss countermeasures. Countries that have good relations with Kyushu are thinking about how to negotiate with Kyushu and get a piece of the pie point. Countries that have a bad relationship with Jiuzhou are thinking about how to repair the relationship and see if they can get a share of the pie point. Those countries that are almost openly opposed to Jiuzhou and have almost no room for maneuver did hold a meeting, but everyone was silent at the meeting point. Of course, some of these people want to bypass Jiuzhou and talk directly to Xianyu Group point. After all, everyone with a discerning eye knows that Xianyu Group is probably the one who has the final say in this matter. It's just that this whimsical idea was rejected as soon as it was proposed. Point in contrast, even if it is an obvious hostile country, Jiuzhou will basically maintain a superficial courtesy. Point in this regard, Xianyu Group is much more straightforward. Point Suyi simply treats these political elites from various countries who are standing at the top of Blue Star as wild dogs on the roadside and doesn't bother to pay attention to them. Point before, because of the sanctions imposed by the Bald Eagle and the Western camp, Suyi asked Xianyu Group to counterattack, causing many countries originally in the Western camp to suffer, and the Bald Eagle has remained silent. Point for these small countries, it doesn't matter which big brother they follow. Since you, the Bald Eagle, are useless, then the worst that can happen is that you can just change the big brother. Jiuzhou is definitely not an option. When they followed the Bald Eagle, they were in a serious conflict with Jiuzhou over the domestic fishing boat issue. If they switched directly to Jiuzhou, the first thing they couldn't get past was the domestic people. Point after Xianyu Group showed enough strength, although it was somewhat embarrassing to follow a company, those small countries that were fence sitters didn't need face that much. Point therefore, after Suyi clashed with the Bald Eagle and the Kingdom of God in the oil region, and the Bald Eagle didn't even dare to fart, naturally many heads of small countries came to visit in person. Chapter 339. For these heads of small countries who offered themselves to be their younger brothers according to the Cold War thinking of the Bald Eagle, some benefits would be given to them. If the geographical location of this country is superior enough to meet some of the planning needs of the Bald Eagle, it would not be a big deal to give them some investment and money. Point if it were Jiuzhou, no matter whether they accepted it or not, they would definitely receive it warmly. If the deal was not concluded, they would also send people away politely. The main point is that, even if the deal is not concluded, the friendship remains. If you are decent, I'm also decent. If others have such ideas, they can come and talk. If the deal is not concluded, it is not a big deal. Point and the Xianyu Group is amazing. Point if a head of state wants to visit Penglay Island, he has to buy a ticket. Point Penglay Island now has 2 open days every week, which is already a normal activity. Compared with local residents, that is, Xianyu Group employees can enter and exit Penglay Island freely. Xianyu Group also gave Jiuzhou some special passes to facilitate the entry and exit of some Jiuzhou official staff who frequently travel between Penglay Island and Jiuzhou. Point in addition, if you want to go to the island, no matter what your purpose is, you must grab a ticket. Point this is the rule set by Xianshu, and it will not work for anyone. Point of course, Xianshu did not specifically make things difficult for these people. Point as a very humanized business AI, it can be said that it does things flawlessly. Point if you want to buy a ticket to enter Penglay Island, there are actually 2 types of tickets you can buy. One is an ordinary tourist ticket, which will issue 600,000 tickets every weekend. Point it can only be purchased when Penglay Island is open to the public on weekends. The other is a transaction ticket. Point to put it bluntly, it is a ticket for people who do business. There are many businesses stationed on Penglay Island now. It is impossible that all of them are employees of Xianyu Group, so there is naturally a demand in this regard. Point this kind of ticket will only be issued 70,000 times a week, that is, 10,000 times a day, and there is no limit on the time to go to the island. You can come anytime with a ticket. Point and there is also a strict review mechanism here, which makes it impossible for ordinary tourists to buy this ticket. Those who can buy this ticket are people who come to Penglay Island to do business. so the pressure to grab tickets is not as great as the 300,000 tickets that are open on weekends. Those heads of small countries who tried to visit Penglay Island and meet Suyui as their younger brother first tried to contact the top management of Shianayu Group directly. After a long time, they realized that this top management was actually an AI, and they could not communicate normally. Well, it's not that they can't communicate, but Shianshu is too lazy to waste computing power on these people, and usually pretends to be artificial idiots who read and reply randomly. In the case of not being able to contact the top management of Shianayu Group, they can only choose to buy tickets and go directly to the headquarters of Shianayu Group to express their intentions according to their thinking, as long as this kind of thing is proposed. Even if Suyui does not intend to give them any benefits, he will not refuse it. As long as the chains imposed on them during the previous counter sanctions are untied, it will be a huge victory. However, many times, if there is no accident, there must be an accident. They thought very well. After grabbing the transaction ticket and entering Shianayu Group, they found that this was a little different from what they expected. Even though they went downstairs to the Shianayu Group headquarters building to state their identities and intentions, the Shianayu Group security soldiers at the door, armed with live ammunition and wearing power armor, did not let them in. They just informed their superiors, got the answer quickly, and then ignored them. It can be said that this is the first time that these heads of small countries who are used to being fence sitters have encountered such a situation where no one wants them, even though they are rushing to the door. The final result is that all the countries that tried to ease relations between Suyui and Shianayu Group and resume trade did not even see Suyui in the end, and even failed to enter the door of the Shianayu Group headquarters building. The main point is a post. After several stubborn heads of small countries repeatedly experimented several times, everyone naturally found that Suyui was too lazy to care about them. So, now that such a big thing has happened, no one has tried to bypass Jiazhou and go directly to Shianayu Group to negotiate. After all, except for letting these dignitaries standing at the top of Blue Star feel the feeling of ordinary people who are not being watched. They really can't get any benefits from going to Shianayu Group. The private discussions of various countries soon came to fruition. Almost all of them are prepared to negotiate with Jiazhou, but according to the position of their original camp in the relationship with Jiazhou, the specific plans are somewhat different. First of all, there are several Western camp countries that are still around the Bald Eagle Empire. They are also very clear that under normal circumstances, even if they are able to give up huge interests, Shianayu Group and Jiazhou will not give them much benefits from the other world. So their method is also very simple and crude. It is still their usual thinking mode, exchanging interests. Some people may think it is outrageous. It has come to this point. What interests do they have that are worth Jiazhou exchanging with them for the interests of the other world? In fact, there are none, but in their opinion, there are. For example, some miscellaneous technologies, some engineering software, high precision processing technologies in special fields, etc. These are the technologies that they have been holding back Jiazhou before. Now they naturally think that there is no problem in using these chips to exchange interests about the other world and let themselves get a share of it. However, these are actually not very useful to Jiazhou. Especially when there is Shianayu Group in the relevant field. Some of the leading software technologies for hardware adaptation in the West, such as engineering software, are no different from children's toys in front of Shianshu. A commercial AI. Under the same computing power, Shianshu can easily make a bunch of better similar products. Even if it wants, it can copy some similar things from the interstellar world, make some changes, and adapt them to the situation on Blue Star. But these things are currently only used by some relevant departments of Jiazhou and Shianayu Group, and have not yet been fully popularized. So this group of countries that originally had a very tense relationship with Jiazhou believe that they still have great value, and Jiazhou cannot do without these things. Chapter 340. In addition to reaching some kind of agreement with Jiazhou to try to gain benefits from the other world, the Western camp headed by the Bald Eagle even has a plan B. This plan is naturally to find a way to find an opportunity to directly contact the envoy from the other world. After all, we are all countries on the blue planet. It doesn't make sense that Jiazhou can welcome visitors from the other world with great fanfare and talk about big things with them, but we can't, right? Whether it is private contact or direct contact with great fanfare, they will always give it a try. As for what kind of reaction Xianyu group and Jiazhou will have after the try, they don't know. Anyway, their term of office is only a few years, and they can do what they can to leave a good reputation and make enough money. As for what kind of hidden dangers will be left and what kind of chain reactions will be triggered later, they don't care. They can do whatever they want, and the main point is to believe in the wisdom of later generations. This is the general situation of the so-called dish cooking of the bald eagle. Anyway, even if they do something against the will of heaven, they will just resign. If it succeeds, it will go down in history and gain both fame and fortune. If it fails, the whole country will take the blame. At worst, they will resign and run away. Compared with the arrogance and confidence of these hostile groups in Jiazhou, those countries that usually have no hatred with Jiazhou or even have nothing to do with it are more capable. They are not fools. Naturally, they know that the huge interests behind such things are not something they can get involved in. These countries are basically small and transparent, have no say, and have no assets worth coveting by Jiazhou. But the development of the other world is the climax of the era of the entire world of Blue Star. I'm afraid that there are more opportunities than the great age of navigation. Who is willing to give up easily, so they still want to work hard. As for the direction of this effort, it is probably to sell some domestic resources and stand in the international arena to see if they can get the favor of Jiazhou and get a share of the pie. And those countries that usually have a good relationship with Jiazhou, at least the relationship at the official level, are more difficult to say. Basically, they are like, I want to get involved, but I have no money, no people, and no skills, so can you help me? They are worse than the pure passers-by who have nothing to do with it. They at least want to join the group by standing in line and giving resources, but this group is just planning to get it for free. They are so close to each other. When Jiazhou was at loggerheads with the bald eagle before, they didn't say anything. They bet on both sides and played both sides. Now they remember that there is such a big brother who comes up to ask for benefits. In short, there are all kinds of people. Less than 3 hours after the news was announced, there was still 1 or 2 hours before the welcome ceremony scheduled to start at 8 o'clock in the morning. When few people in the whole Blue Star had seen what the Magic World envoy looked like, the hotline of Jiazhou's foreign teacher department was almost blown up. They all put forward conditions to get involved in this matter. Those who don't have conditions just try to get close to each other and beg for money. They are more outrageous than the other. Not everyone can call these hotlines. Only countries that have diplomatic relations with Kyushu can transfer the calls to Kyushu's foreign teaching department through Kyushu's embassy in that country. In other words, all the people who called to ask about these trivial matters are national officials. In response, Kyushu's diplomats also gave a very simple answer. The guests from the magic world have just arrived and are not familiar with Blue Star. When they are familiar with the situation on Blue Star, why don't you talk to them about cooperation? Will we Jiazhou help? That's really sorry. We Jiazhou believe in not interfering in other countries' affairs. Although friends from the magic world come from countries in other worlds, they are also subject to this rule. Therefore, we Jiazhou will not interfere in this regard. Of course, if you have the opportunity to meet with her and obtain her authorized cooperation plan, we Jiazhou will not obstruct it and will even help you to the best of our ability. After all, we are all brothers from Blue Star, we are all family, and we don't have to say two things. In short, the meaning of a set of combos is, don't ask me about this matter, I can't control it. If you have the ability, go and talk to the person in person. The premise is that you can find it. Getting this reply was actually beyond the expectations of many countries. After all, in their opinion, since Jiazhou has already mastered the initiative to communicate with extraterrestrial civilizations and can actively invite them to visit Jiazhou, they will definitely find a way to prevent them from communicating with other countries on Blue Star in this way. Jiazhou can be the representative of Blue Star in front of this alien civilization, and there are too many things that can be done. If the envoys of the alien civilization are allowed to contact other countries on Blue Star, it will undoubtedly have a significant impact on Jiao's interests in the alien world. Before, they thought that they would be satisfied to get some benefits from the communication between Jiao and the alien world through Jiao's channels. Since people from the alien world have come to place Jiao, it is almost a foregone conclusion that Jiao will be the representative of Blue Star in the alien world. And there is no need to discuss it. But now it seems that there is room for maneuver if we can really communicate with the envoy of the alien world and then reach a cooperative relationship with the other party that is not better than Jiao, but at least equal to Jiao. Then wouldn't that make him rich? Of course, this is all their imagination when they got the news in a hurry and didn't know the truth. If they knew that this so-called messenger from another world was following Suyi like a tail, calling him brother-in-law and asking questions, they probably wouldn't think they could bypass Xianyu group and Jiao to reach an agreement with him and work alone. After all, Suyi is not as easy to talk to as Jiao. He made the base of Bald Eagle, where thousands of troops were stationed, disappear without a word. Bald Eagle didn't dare to say a word. There should be few countries in the whole Blue Star that are more resistant than Bald Eagle. It is estimated that no one would have such a dangerous idea to see if Suyi dares to beat him. If it is a normal exchange of interests and the hidden dangers left by offending people, they are not afraid at all. Just like what was said before, they will run away after leaving office in a few years, and some national leaders will even leave office and run away soon. For example, the current president of Bald Eagle has only 2 months left in his term at most. I'm afraid they are eager to leave some big holes for their successors, but offending Suyi is obviously not within the scope of this pit. Because if you offend him today, he will come to kill you tomorrow. Unless you want to die, it's better not to provoke him. Chapter 341. Brother-in-law. Brother-in-law, is this the spaceship from your world? It can actually fly with so many people. It's amazing. Even more amazing than the griffins in our world. Brother-in-law. Brother-in-law, is this a car? It can move forward without being pulled by people or animals, and it can also carry heavy objects. It's amazing. We have one in Mengchuan City, but it was also sent by you. Sister usually keeps a close eye on it, and I haven't even looked at it carefully. Brother-in-law, are all these people here to welcome me? Am I so popular? Brother-in-law, Suyi, sitting in the official welcome car of Jiao. Suyi sighed helplessly. This little girl is good in every way, but she is too curious. She asks this and that and she keeps calling me brother-in-law. This is too hard to handle. Okay, along the way, he could only keep a straight face and not show any strange expression. Although the Jiao officials who accompanied him did not say anything out of their high professional ethics, and even asked a caring young lady to introduce this and that to Lillian at Suyi's instruction, he could clearly feel that these people's eyes on him were a little strange. After all, Suyi was with Yuling at this time. According to Land Crossing's previous general speculation, these two should be a couple. Jiao has even more solid evidence. Because Suyi and Yuling really have Jiao's marriage certificate, which has been registered at Jiao's Civil Affairs Bureau. They had also speculated before that Yuling, who almost appeared out of thin air, was from another world. Later, after various things, it was almost confirmed that their point of view was correct. But now there is such a thing. And anyone with a discerning eye can see that this messenger from another world, who keeps calling Suyi brother-in-law, is obviously not Yuling's sister. Although the appearance of elves is very consistent with human aesthetics, there are still many places where the characteristics are significantly different from normal humans. For example, Yuling has a pair of pointed ears, which is different from ordinary people. Her eyes are also a light emerald green. In addition to the fiery red hair that represents the royal family of the Qiang Empire, Lillian's eyes are also red. From a genetic point of view, there is no way these two can be sisters. Even according to the detailed division of human biology, it is difficult to classify them as Homo sapiens. Only a blind person would think that these two are sisters. It just so happens that Jiao now has some understanding of the magic world, such as some basic knowledge related to Mengchuan City and the Qiang Empire. Every time they trade materials with people in the magic world, they regularly send some of what how people have seen and heard their point. The 20,000 how people who were sent to the magic world, whether they are scientific researchers, technicians, or soldiers, have to write diaries regularly to record what they see and hear in the other world. These are all important reference materials. How even set up a large-scale social science research institute in the other world to study these precious first-hand materials. Now, apart from some important and more secretive issues, the people from how who were sent there were not accessible because they were not in a high enough position. So how did not know point in terms of some basic common sense about the magic world, humanities and social sciences. It is no exaggeration to say that how may know more than Suyi. Naturally, it is also very clear what Lillian's identity is as for Yuling's true identity. Although there is no solid hammer, the top leaders of how can basically guess, based on the information sent from the magic world, that this is probably a member of the Moon Elf royal family that was destroyed by the Elf Kingdom before, and it is very likely that it is the Moon Elf princess who disappeared in the magic world. In the case of knowing clearly what the identities of the two are, it is more difficult to hold back when hearing Lillian calling him brother-in-law, and Yuling is next to him. In other words, the people sent by how to greet them this time have received professional training, otherwise they would have laughed out loud long ago. This matter is really outrageous. It is definitely a messy relationship between men and women. Not to mention them, even Suyi himself can't hold back a little. Fortunately, he knew very well that this was not the fault of a little girl. Lillian was not a green tea who pretended to be innocent and made trouble. She really didn't know anything, so she had all kinds of problems, let alone the alien world of Blue Star. In the magic world, people practiced martial arts whenever they had nothing to do and learned various court etiquette and the like. She didn't have much time for entertainment since she was a child, so she probably didn't know much about the magic world. Even if she used the world language card, the meaning of the word brother-in-law was probably a role similar to that of a brother in her understanding. She didn't understand that the Blue Star people had so many connotations beyond the word itself. People are like this, so what can we do? Guests from afar are guests. You can't just ask them to shut up and stop asking questions, right, Mr. Su? After getting off the plane at the Imperial Capital Airport and boarding Kaishu's special welcoming car, an official in charge of guiding the welcoming work in the car said to Suyi with some embarrassment, "When we arrive at the venue later, there will be many media reporters there regarding the order of getting on and off the car. What do you think is the appropriate arrangement? In theory, this high-profile reception event is for Lillian, the envoy of the otherworld Mengchuan City. In addition to the staff, it is of course most appropriate for Lillian, the protagonist, to get off the car first. If only Lillian was in the car at this moment, there would be nothing controversial about this matter, but Suyi happened to come with the group. That would be very difficult to deal with. According to the original intention of the diplomatic department, Suyi and Lillian, the VIP, were to get on two separate welcoming cars. In this way, there would be no question of who got off first and who got off later. They were all treated equally and were all VIPs. The matter of having one more car was not a big deal. But when they actually met these two, after seeing Lillian following behind Suyi and calling him brother-in-law, the accompanying staff tactfully gave up the idea of letting them take two separate cars. It was just that, after arranging them to get on the car, they asked the leader in charge of the overall coordination what to do. It directly crashed the leader's brain. It was reasonable to let Lillian get off the car first. After all, this event was held to welcome her, and there was no problem in giving her the highest level of reception. But there was also Suyi in the car. Let Suyi play a supporting role and get off the car behind her. Who dares to make such an arrangement? When the person in charge heard about this situation, he was immediately overwhelmed. After thinking about it, he also asked the old man Lin, who had a good relationship with Suyi, for his opinion. Finally, he was instructed not to hide it and just ask Suyi directly how to do it. That's why there was this abrupt question when asking the question. The staff member who didn't look too old was sweating visibly. Suyi was also a little amused when seeing this. The welcome ceremony prepared for her is of course centered on her. I came with her, you don't have to worry about me. Chapter 342. If it were any other situation, Suyi certainly wouldn't come to play supporting role in such an occasion. But now when he suddenly threw such a little girl over here and let people call her brother-in-law, so he would definitely help out. That's why Suyi made a special trip to Jiuzhou with her. Since he was accompanying her, he naturally wouldn't steal the show and take advantage of his position in Blue Star to steal her limelight. He didn't lack this face. The staff in charge of communication felt like they had been pardoned after receiving a positive reply and quickly reported the news. The following process is naturally not worth mentioning. The motorcade drove all the way from the airport to the building representing the highest power in Jiuzhou, and then there was a grand but not exhausting welcome ceremony. After a set of routine procedures, it was around 9 o'clock in the morning in Jiuzhou when they arrived, and it was already lunchtime when they finished. According to the normal arrangement, the next step is naturally to let Lillian have a meeting with a big boss in Jiuzhou and then announce to the public that the two sides have reached some consensus and achieved important cooperation. But Suyi was too lazy to stay here all the time, so when Lillian was attending those activities, he simply went to meet with the old man Lin, who was in charge of this matter, in a more formal occasion, and then reached some economic and trade agreements with Jiuzhou on behalf of Lillian. This kind of cooperation is beneficial to both Mengqiu and City and Jiuzhou. And let alone Lillian. Even if Wei came to sign these agreements herself, she would probably be in the dark and could not understand what these rigorous agreements meant in every clause. In the end, Suyi had to make the decision. So there was no place for overstepping one's authority. To put it bluntly, Wei asked Lillian to come here as a mascot and asked Suyi to take care of her more, which meant that Suyi was supposed to do something for her. Lillian only had to nod and sign. The cards were given and the attitude was given. The cooperation that should be reached was also reached. It can be said that everyone is happy with her result. After a simple calculation, it can be concluded that the agreements signed today alone involve more than 5 trillion economic and trade exchanges between Jiuzhou and Mengqiu and City. In the dimension of the two worlds, this business may not be particularly shocking. But if it is placed in the diplomatic history of Jiuzhou, such a large trade agreement was signed so easily, it would be like a dream. Those big men who usually don't smile can't hide the smiles on their faces at the welcoming banquet at noon. In public, this is a great thing that benefits the country and the people. In private, this is not only an extremely brilliant achievement in his political career, but also can benefit his career in the future. It is also the first formal national level economic and trade exchange agreement reached between the humans of Blue Star and the countries of the other world. This is something that will be recorded in history books 100%. It is a foregone conclusion that the people involved will be remembered in history. It was worth it that Jiuzhou had asked the diplomats stationed in Mengqiu and City to send invitations to Wei many times before, and after receiving the news that Lillian was going to visit in the early morning, the various departments of Jiuzhou hurriedly made preparations in a very short time. Everything got the best feedback. After the official communication ended, according to Jiuzhou's intention, of course, they wanted to invite Lillian to visit some scenic spots and cultural relics in Jiuzhou, so that friends who came from afar could feel the charm of Jiuzhou culture. However, Suyi was too familiar with these, and Lillian also had the task of purchasing weapons this time. So the subsequent itinerary was directly changed to visit the aviation exhibition being held in a city in the south of Jiuzhou. Of course, it was called an air show before, and now it is called a defense exhibition. In essence, it is an exhibition of various weapons and equipment. In the past, this was an air show named after a place name. In recent years, as it has been getting better and better, the scale has become larger and larger, and it has gradually become one of the world's top defense exhibitions. It is also the most representative defense exhibition in Jiuzhou, so it has gradually been called the Jiuzhou Defense Exhibition. It is held every 2 years, and this year's event is just being held. We hurriedly sent Lillian here, because Suyi mentioned this inadvertently when they were chatting in the trading space before. Then thinking that there was too much money in his pocket to spend, he asked Lillian to come and spend it. Although he hasn't officially started spending, just by the way Wei and Lillian don't spend money as money, Suyi can roughly guess the content of the news in the next few days. The dog tycoons in the oil region are just for fun, and the real dog tycoons have to look at the sisters in this other world. The key is that the dog tycoons in the oil region just buy weapons to look at, and they can't use them many times. But the things bought by Mengchuan City are real, and have to be used after they are bought back. Just on this point, the consumption power of both parties is not at the same level. And although everyone is selling resources, Weiwei's underground oil lake alone is probably larger than the entire oil region. In front of Weiwei, the dog tycoons who sell oil there to claim to be rich. Of course, the officials had no objection to the request to change the schedule. They were even very surprised. They just finished discussing a multi-trillion-dollar deal, and then a small deal of at least $100 billion came up. This money is really easy to make, right? The group immediately went directly to the defense exhibition venue in the south of Kyushu under the arrangement of the official personnel specially sent by Kyushu. This shocked the reporters who were preparing to report this matter. The first thing the visitors from another world did after arriving in Kyushu to do their business was to go to see the latest weapons exhibitions. This is not a small news. It is worth writing about. Even at this time, if someone wants to lead the rhythm, they can be sarcastic that the people in this other world are full of war and other things, and do not love peace at all. Of course, without the support of the forces in the dark, no one would do such a thing. However, they reported all the things about Lillian's itinerary without reservation. The progress of major news about the visitors from another world visiting Kyushu has appeared on various platforms on the internet. From a brief introduction of Lillian's identity, to when Lillian arrived in Kyushu, who she met after arriving, what she talked about, and the economic and trade agreements involving trillions of trade volume signed. Any progress will be updated in real time. Chapter 343. People who are following the visit of visitors from another world on the internet are all curious at first. Some people even take the popular science news about the background of the magic world and Lillian's origins disclosed by the official as novels. After all, although the magic world described in it is different from the western fantasy world in those novels of Blue Star, the core is very similar. However, after reading these simple popular science about the background of the magic world, people who realize some outrageous numbers above quickly realize why Jiuzhou attaches so much importance to this visit. Because just from these popular science contents, it is mentioned that there are more than just humans in this magic world, and the total number of intelligent life has exceeded 50 billion without detailed inference. If a serious census is really conducted, then this number will probably be even more exaggerated. The Qiang Empire mentioned in it alone has a population of about 10 billion. The Mengchuan Kingdom, where Lillian is located, is a vassal state of the Qiang Empire, and its territory is only 3 provinces in the bitter cold land in the north of the Qiang Empire. It is not worth mentioning among the dozens or hundreds of provinces in the empire. Even so, the population directly ruled by the kingdom of Mengchuan exceeds 300 million people. The territory exceeds 3 million square kilometers, which is almost 1/3 of Jiuzhou. It is precisely because of this terrifying data that, after signing some cooperation agreements, Jiuzhou announced the contents of the agreements and the trade volume involved. And few people came out to question the huge trade agreement of more than 5 trillion. Don't talk about how backward the social system and productivity level of the magic world are. Just based on the territory and population of the kingdom of Mengchuan, these trillions are definitely available. The resources on the 3 million square kilometers of territory alone are worth this price. The kingdom of Mengchuan alone has reached this point If it can continue to develop with this springboard and spread its business and influence to a wider area of the magic world, the benefits that can be obtained are simply unimaginable for ordinary people. I didn't understand why it was so grand before, but now I understand after reading it. When I first read those materials, I thought this magic world was nothing but a world with backward system and low productivity. It would be better to send troops to fight for territory than to negotiate business with them. I didn't know until later that they really have magic. This is also a confirmation that Xianyu Group has long been related to the magic world. The chairman's wife and CEO Yuling should be from the magic world, and the very beautiful woman named Xinghan who often goes in and out of the group headquarters and is often mentioned by Xianyu Group employees should also be from the magic world. It was Xinghan who went to Bald Eagle last time. I remember that she disappeared with a wave of her hand, and then Bald Eagle encountered a huge storm that had never been seen since the founding of the country, and the direct economic losses exceeded 100 billion swords. Bald Eagle still insisted that it was a natural disaster. Now it seems that this can be clearly confirmed that it was magic. It's so scary to use magic at this level at will. When I read those materials, there was no mention of their magic in the beginning. I was also wondering why they didn't just fight against this world with rich resources and backward civilization, but do business with them. After reading all the information, I realized that, although their system is backward, their productivity is really not backward under the blessing of magic. Otherwise they can't support so many people. Their fighting power is even more exaggerated. If a war really breaks out, it's hard to say who will win, that's for sure, and the information also clearly states that there are real gods in the magic world, proving that God definitely exists. I hope everyone will believe in God and become God's believers. No, can you get out of here, charlatan? It's clearly stated in the damn text that the gods in the magic world are just people who have cultivated to an extremely powerful level. They have nothing to do with the omnipotent gods in myths and legends. Yours is purely fictional. Believe it in your head. Have you read the content of the agreement? In the early stage, the magic world can only provide us with a little minerals, but we have to invest a lot of industrial products and equipment, and even send people over. It seems that this is not profitable at all. A little minerals. Is this something a person can say? Look at the list in the agreement. The oil imported from Mengchuan Kingdom in just 1 month is almost catching up with the oil that Jiuzhou imported from Blue Star in a year. Is this a little? It is no exaggeration to say that just the mineral resource import part of this agreement, the resources that can be imported from the other world, are enough to get Jiuzhou out of the predicament of insufficient resources. It is really a god to say that this is not important. What about sending people to the other world? It is not Blue Star. There are no laws or anything like that, and it is clearly written in the information that they are popular with the theory of bloodline. If you go there, you will be the lowest pariah. I just want to ask a question. If you are sent there, would you be willing to go? There is such a good thing. Brother, you really don't watch the news, right? The official has issued another reference on the treatment of working in the other world. It contains the treatment given to the personnel who have been sent to the other world by the official. Take a good look. Monthly salary 5W plus. In addition to the most basic 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, there are even several special insurances for the other world, which are purchased uniformly by the government. In the event of an accident, the maximum compensation can be more than 30 million. Even the water and electricity network there is not a problem, but the network cannot be connected to the internet. There is only a temporary regional network built in Mengchuan City, which is a bit inconvenient. Then the entertainment life is indeed not as colorful as Blue Star, which is a bit boring. By the way, there seems to be a stationing time award. If you stay in the other world for more than 3 months, the salary will be increased by 5,000 for each additional month. That is to say, if you are now 50,000 a month, the salary plus bonus for the 4th month is 55,000, and the 5th month is 60,000, and so on. The longer you stay, the more you earn. There is no need to worry about safety. Jiuzhou has already made it very clear, and even explained the question of the disappearance of tens of thousands of people in Jiuzhou last time that the Bald Eagle questioned. These people really went to the other world. In addition to them, there was a group of 10,000 troops who went there before. So there are now 20,000 Jiuzhou people there, and they have a good relationship with the local residents. They have also won the respect of everyone in the city for helping Mengchuan city resist invasion. We don't need to worry about safety there. Some beastmen will even take the initiative to help our people when they are in danger. As for status, there is no need to say more. The Queen of Mengchuan city is a very enlightened ruler in the other world. The bloodline theory in her territory is not so strict. In addition, Jiuzhou is the benefactor who helped Mengchuan city survive the Great Crisis, and the origin is different from theirs, so usually those bloodline theories have nothing to do with us. Chapter 344. As the news about the other world released by Jiuzhou continues to update point, after learning about it, interested people are becoming more and more curious about the existence of this other world, and their attention is getting higher and higher, especially after learning about the treatment and situation of Jiuzhou people in the other world. The term working in another world became popular without any warning, and many people want to go to another world to take a look point. In addition to the extremely superior treatment provided by Jiuzhou officials, there are of course many other reasons. For example, the description of races such as elves and orcs in the relevant information released by Jiuzhou point. Not only are there text descriptions of these races, but there are also many pictures and video materials taken by Jiuzhou people stationed in Mengchuan city point. Needless to say, the elves are all handsome men and beautiful women point. After watching it, everyone thought of Yuling, the beautiful and charming wife of the chairman of Xianyu Group point. Just say that there is no one in the world who looks so good. Aren't Yuling's characteristics in all aspects exactly the same as those of the elves in the other world? Before, most people could only envy and hate Suyi for having such a beautiful wife. After all, it is really difficult to find someone as beautiful as Yuling in Blue Star. This is not a question of whether you are rich or not point, but it is different now. There is no such beautiful one in Blue Star, but there is in the other world, and the elves are a huge race with hundreds of millions of people in the other world point. They are all handsome men and beautiful women. Who wouldn't be confused? Don't expect every elf to be as beautiful as Yuling. In fact, normal people can guess that Yuling, who can be favored by Suyi, is definitely the most beautiful one in the elves. But even if it is not Yuling, just the average appearance of the elves, any one of them is a peerless beauty that most people dare not even think about point. Just based on this point, I don't know how many LSP have attracted the longing for the other world point. As for those orcs, I can only say that Fury is ecstatic point, and the orcs are not all big muscle tyrants with muscular bodies like minotaurs and centaurs. There are also many other races compared to the elves and humans who look almost the same. These special orcs are naturally different point. Some of the orcs are also known for their super high looks in the magic world, such as fox girls and cat girls in the fox people and cat people, who are also very popular in the magic world point. The difference between the two worlds may be great, but people's aesthetics are basically the same point except for the LGBT on the blue planet who regard ugliness as beauty. Normal people can still distinguish between beauty and ugliness. Just these elves and orcs. There are countless people who are begging to work in the other world point, not to mention the super high treatment point. There are also countless resources and opportunities in the other world point. After reading these materials, some visionary bigwigs on the internet took the initiative to post that this is definitely a great voyage in the new century. And there are even more opportunities than the Great Voyage in the past point. The official treatment is just for fun. People who can go to the other world early, except for some special positions, if they can only rely on these treatments to survive, they are really waste point. The resources there are so abundant that it is not difficult for anyone with a little bit of brains to get rich in the magic world point, and this wealth does not even need to violate the content of the management regulations for personnel stationed in other worlds published by Jiuzhou point. It is completely possible to achieve financial freedom by getting rich quickly under the premise of legality and compliance point. In short, as Jiuzhou releases more and more information about other worlds, this incident has gradually developed from an abrupt diplomatic incident to a national carnival point. But this is normal. A trade agreement worth more than 5 trillion was signed at once, coupled with the countless resources and opportunities in the other world, which will naturally make many people realize the benefits apart from anything else. This 5 trillion trade agreement alone, as long as it ferments for a period of time, is enough to leverage the economy, let the domestic economic environment go to a higher level, and benefit everyone in the country. There are always people who think that the national economy has no impact on individuals, and no matter how much the official earns, it has nothing to do with their monthly salary of 3,000, which is pure nonsense. Except for some truly uneducated people. People who like to talk about such things are basically talking nonsense with open eyes. As an economic entity, whether a country makes a profit or a loss in international trade, it is ultimately borne or benefited by all citizens. Making money is your own ability, and losing money is a bad economic situation and a national problem. That's really a bit against the sky. Although the current GSOW has stopped the sluggish momentum of economic development after the emergence of Sci-Fi Group, because of the various dividends it has received, it has developed rapidly again. But who would complain about having too much money? This wave of economic exchanges with the other world will only make GSOW's economic situation better compared with the enthusiasm of GSOW. Other places in Blue Star seem quite bleak. Whether it is the hostile camp to GSOW, the countries that were previously pro-GSOW, or the countries that had nothing to do with GSOW before, the idea of wanting to share a piece of the pie in the trend of the other world has not received any response. That's not right. GSOW officials have responded. The content of the reply is also very simple. Don't ask me, ask Suyi. Well, this is no different from not replying. Before asking, everyone knew that the person who could decide whether they could get a share of the pie was always Suyi, but the reason why they left the main person to ask you was because they didn't dare to ask Suyi directly. Right, now that you throw this topic back, how can we talk about it? There is no way to talk about it. They can't even see Suyi. Where can they see Suyi? Break into the Sci-Fi Group headquarters on Penglay Island. How many lives do they dare to play with? Obviously, they all realized that neither Sci-Fi Group nor GSOW seemed to have any intention of playing with them. And it was different from the situation in GSOW that was getting better and better after the Sci-Fi Group appeared. With the emergence of Sci-Fi Group, the situation in many places outside GSOW has become worse and worse. Especially some western countries led by the bald eagle. They used to be so arrogant, relying on their first mover advantage to suck the world's blood and marrow. After the emergence of Sci-Fi Group, they could only lower their proud heads and watch their country and camp become worse and worse. This deterioration is multifaceted and all round, not just one aspect. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345. In terms of technology, they were originally proud of it. The upstream technology in the industrial chain used to harvest the world was like a joke in front of Suyi. There was no such thing as a bottleneck. Sci-Fi Group directly subverted the entire industry as soon as it launched. Sweep them all into the garbage heap of history. With the pile of high technology in their hands, maybe it was considered high tech just one day ago, capable of occupying the upper reaches of the industrial chain and reaping huge profits from the whole world. After one day, it will become completely backward and even a technology that can be eliminated, and it will be useless. Whatever substitutes Sci-Fi Group comes up with are several generations ahead of the products they are proud of, so there is no way they can beat them. In the military, since the bald eagle was killed in an overseas base, thousands of elite overseas bald eagle soldiers could not even find their bodies, but the bald eagle did not even dare to fart. The western camp has no place. The idea of competing with the Sci-Fi Group in the military. They've all been beaten into this be-like state, so it's better not to send them away. Even if someone gets hot-headed and wants to do something, the people next to them will immediately take out their astronomical telescopes and let them look at the sky to see the Kunpeng, which can circle the blue star in an average of 2 hours. Star attack ship. Take a moment to calm down. Economically, this thing is actually integrated with technological and military strength. After the technological monopoly is eliminated, what follows will be the collapse of high value added industries and the cliff-like decline of the economy. After the military advantage is gone, the resources and people exploited by the military in the past are no longer so easy to control. Both have lost their advantages, and the economy will naturally collapse. That is to say, Shia Group and Geoshao are still preparing for nuclear fusion, and have no intention of developing Bald Eagle's petroleum knife system in the short term. If we really have to do something about this, and make Bald Eagle sword lose its status as a world currency, that would be a real fatal blow. After this is completed, I'm afraid that most countries in the entire Western camp will undergo a major reshuffle in the next 1 or 2 years, or at most 3 to 5 years. And the existing order system will completely collapse. Now, let alone sanctioning Shia Group. Many countries are even begging Shia Group to do business on their territory, offering a bunch of extremely high conditions, as long as it can provide some jobs, and introduce Shia Group's excellent products to stimulate market consumption and boost the economy. It will be fine. By the way, let's repair the relationship between the two parties, so that Shia Group can be more gentle when dealing with them in the future. Everyone understands that they can still live in peace now, but Shia Group may have other more important things to do, and is too lazy to pay attention to them for the time being. Once the Shia Group takes action, these Western camp countries that represent the old order of Blue Star will all be liquidated. It's just a matter of time. But what can we do if we know them? Resist, stop making trouble, and look at the starships in the sky. Might as well slide and kneel at the speed of light. They had almost no recourse, except to simply surrender, in order to be liquidated less violently. But that was before today. After today, with the disclosure of news related to the other world, it is inevitable that these people in the West will have some small thoughts. After all, in their view, the Shia Group and Geoshau's success today must be inseparable from the other world. Would it be different if they could also gain contact with another world, or even establish a strong relationship to them? The answer is clearly yes. The people of Kyushu can achieve this kind of achievement after discovering another world. These white-skinned people are used to being superior. How can they think that they can't do it? That must work. Therefore, there was no hope through official channels in Kyushu, and he couldn't even find Suyui directly. Naturally, it is inevitable that some people will have some evil thoughts. In addition to the countries in the Western camp that were originally unable to deal with the Kyushu and Shia Group, but have now become grasshoppers and must fight to the death, there are also many countries among them. There are a few small countries that have nothing to do with this camp dispute, and some so-called friends who are originally in the same camp as Kyushu. The specific manifestation of these crooked thoughts is that they want to find opportunities to contact Lillian in private. After all, they don't have any specific identity information about Lillian, so they naturally don't know what her relationship is with Suyui. They just think that they can see Geoshau and Kyushu reaching a cooperation, and their own strength is not weak. As long as they can develop better ones, conditions may not necessarily mean that cooperation cannot be achieved. They do not believe that messengers from other worlds will give up more benefits. It's just that Kyushu has always protected this kind of foreign guests very well. It is impossible to do things like assassination, and it is even more difficult to contact them in private. It wasn't until Kyushu's official media updated the news that, after discussing specific cooperation matters, Miss Lillian, the envoy from the magical world of Mengchuan Kingdom, wanted to visit the ongoing Kyushu Defense Exhibition. This made countries that were still having a headache about how to contact Lillian privately no longer sleepy. Kyushu Defense Exhibition is an exhibition open to the world. Although most of the exhibitors are Kyushu companies and there are not many foreign companies, it is not without them. There are even some well-known companies from Western countries, such as Airbus. In addition, Kyushu said that, just because Lillian wanted to visit, it would not affect the normal visiting behavior of other tourists. Then there are too many opportunities for contact. Now many countries that want to get involved in the other world think that, as long as they can contact Lillian, they will definitely get countless benefits. This is similar to the dying struggle mentality of, as long as they can reach that place point. It's just that they haven't realized it yet. Point. I'm still secretly happy that Jiazhou and Xianyu group are so rough and leave such a big loophole for them to operate. Point. In fact, it's because neither Jiazhou nor Xianyu group cares about it at all. Point. There is no need to say much about Xianyu group. Jiazhou's industrial capacity alone is destined to make it impossible for any country or camp on the entire Blue Star to replace Jiazhou as the partner of Mengchuan Kingdom on Blue Star. The industrial products and weapons needed by the Mengchuan Kingdom, except Jiazhou, cannot be provided by all other countries in the entire Blue Star in such a short time. Point. In essence, Jiazhou can reach such a cooperative relationship with Wei not only because Su Yi personally favors Jiazhou, but also because Jiazhou is the only one on Blue Star that has the ability to meet the needs of Mengchuan City. That's all. Point. If these things cannot be done, no matter how much Su Yi pushes, the two sides will not be able to cooperate. Point. Wei is too shrewd. She will not do anything that will lose money. Chapter 346. This is our most advanced 191 rocket launcher in Kyushu. Looking at the whole world, it is also the most advanced weapon of the same type. If I remember correctly, a batch should have been sent to Mengchuan City before. I don't know. Lily, what do you think, Misson? I know, this is good. We even used this to capture the Dark Elf Princess, but why didn't you continue to sell this to us later? There are many reasons. One is that the first batch has sent almost all the active reserves that we can use, and subsequent production of this type of weapons is not that fast. Another reason is that this type of rocket launcher actually pursues precision strikes, but according to the thinking of our headquarters, in the magical world, this kind of precise strike effect may not be that great, so we did not continue to send such rocket launchers there. Instead, the most basic large caliber artillery and those rocket launchers with simple structures are more suitable. The environment over there, well, if I want to buy a batch, can you still sell it at the air show? Lillian looked at the advanced rocket launcher, and after listening to the introduction by the shopping guide specially assigned to her by Jiazhou, her eyes looked quite regretful. Point. When the million-strong coalition army in the north besieged Mengchuan City, I can still vividly remember the scene where several loaded 750mm rocket launchers were fired directly at the Dark Elf Princess Anki, who was commanding the coalition forces. She could never forget the power of the cloud bomb explosion. Point. Later, although in several large-scale operations in Mengchuan City, the thermal weapons from Blue Star still shined and were equally shocking, but they were the result of saturation bombing, and the main focus was large quantities and full control. Point. In terms of the power of a single shot, except for the tactical nuclear weapon used to encircle and suppress the Black Dragon a few days ago, there is really no weapon that can compete with those cloud explosion bombs. People in the magical world naturally don't understand firepower matching, economics and the like. Point. In Lillian's eyes, the more powerful this weapon is, the better. You are a distinguished guest from Kyushu. If you want to buy it, of course you can. However, compared to the weapon plans we in Kyushu have for Mengchuan City, this set of 191 rocket launchers may not be that powerful in the magical world. I hope you can think carefully. The shopping guide reminded me very thoughtfully. It doesn't matter, as long as it can be sold. That's it. It's sold by the car, right? How much does one cost, Miss Lillian? This launch vehicle and the artillery shells are sold separately. The prices of the artillery shells vary according to different calibers and different warheads. The cheapest one costs about 50 W. As for this launch vehicle, the shopping guide spoke very seriously for a long time, which made Lillian confused. Finally, she simply waved. Well, I will give you 20 billion, how to sell it, and you can arrange it with the shells. Okay, this kind of shopping method makes the shopping guide confused. Point. After selling arms for so many years, is this the first time that you have to buy something like a rocket launcher for tens of billions, and you only pay money, leaving all the details to the seller? Is there anyone doing this business? After being stunned for a while, the shopping guide quickly said, then thank you Miss Lillian for your trust. Later I will hand it over to a professional team to customize a purchasing plan for you based on the funds you have given and the specific conditions of the magical world. Lillian waved her hands after hearing this, not paying much attention. Firstly, it's because she comes from the royal family. Like we, she really has no concept of money. She only knows that this thing is very good and must be bought. So I bought it. Secondly, she really didn't understand these things herself and she was too lazy to worry about it, so she simply left it to professionals and just paid for it herself. As for whether she would be cheated if she gave it to others to buy for her, she was not afraid of that at all. It's not that she is too upright and doesn't know that people's hearts are sinister. It's mainly because of the current relationship between Kyushu and Mengchuan City. As long as the people of Kyushu haven't lost their minds, they won't mess with such things, not to mention Suyi helping her keep an eye on it. This brother-in-law can't let her suffer, right? She had seen Suyi's status in Blue Star with her own eyes. With such a big backer, she certainly wasn't afraid of being cheated. After watching the rocket launcher, we looked around the airshow site again, but there wasn't much left that caught our eye. The latest stealth fighter. This thing is indeed a cutting-edge weapon in Blue Star, but it is of no use in the magic world. People don't have any radar at all. If you buy a stealth fighter, it's not as good as a bomber or a multi-purpose fighter that can carry more bombs. Moreover, airplanes are actually a very useless thing in the magical world. There are all kinds of magical beasts in the sky of the magic world. Among them, flying mounts such as griffins have been domesticated for many years and are very mature personal transportation vehicles. Magicians and warriors with a little money will keep one or two. It's the same as how Blue Star raised horses in ancient times. When this thing reaches adulthood, it can reach around the speed of sound while carrying several people on its back. It is no problem at all to use it for short distance travel, as well as to occupy the sky and seize their supremacy in wars. As for long distance travel, the magic world has space magic arrays, which can completely transport large numbers of people and materials over long distances. There is no need for anything like a passenger plane or a transport plane. The same goes for tanks, armored vehicles and the like. These things are very advanced cutting-edge weapons in Blue Star, but in the magic world, they are useless, no matter how thick the armor of a tank is. Even if it uses the special alloy provided by Shiranayu Group, it will be useless if it encounters a high-level warrior or magician. Even if it is just a low-level warrior or magician, it is not so easy to break the thick armor, but the problem is that you can't hit them. With a tank faced with such a bulky weapon, the practitioners in the magic world can be said to be not afraid at all. The effect is really too limited. Although Lillian wanted to buy something to try, the idea of buying a few tanks was directly rejected by Suyi. No matter how rich you are, you can't buy these weapons that are completely unsuitable for the magic world, right? That's not a rich man, that's Isakuso. Under this weird demand, Lillian took a walk around the airshow, perfectly avoiding those high-tech advanced weapons, and instead bought a bunch of basic weapons including, but not limited to, various types of rocket launchers, various types of individual weapons including guns, etc. There are also various types of ammunition that are astronomical in number, too many to count. In addition, a large number of Sentinel-2 medium-sized exoskeletons were purchased from Suyi. Of course, this is a complete version, not the castrated version that Shiranayu Group bought on Blue Star, and can be upgraded later after a set of operations. She finally spent all the hundreds of billions of purchase fees that Wei gave her. Chapter 347. Compared to the high-tech weapons of Blue Star. After Lillian's careful study, Shiranayu Group's exoskeleton armor was found that, if it could be brought to the magic world, it would definitely not be the useless weapons that those military experts thought before. Before this, Suyi actually planned to get a batch of exoskeleton armor, but after some military experts studied the magic world, they all believed that this kind of weapon that can greatly improve the combat capability of individual soldiers and cultivate super individual soldiers on a large scale has no meaning at all in the magic world. Because without this thing, People can also cultivate a lot of super individual soldiers in the cognition of blue star people, but if they are taken out, every cultivator can be said to be such an existence point even the most basic first level warrior can turn a city upside down. On blue star in such a world with explosive per capita military power, if you take this weapon, that enhances the combat capability of individual soldiers on blue star. Isn't it nonsense? Not to mention that this thing is not cheap. Point of course, this not cheap refers to the price sold to the outside world in the declared cost point. The actual situation is that these exoskeleton armors are terribly cheap for Suyi. With a complete set of production lines in hand, the average cost of producing a set of exoskeleton armor is probably less than 10,000 Jiao coins. In short, according to the views of most military experts, the role of individual exoskeletons in the magic world is very limited, far inferior to those simple and crude weapons, for example, artillery. After forming a cluster, a few rounds of volleys can beat a million troops into a panic point. Another example is firearms, which can make ordinary people in the magic world also pose a certain threat to those low-level warriors and magicians. These are all very intuitive to increase combat effectiveness. In fact, these military experts are not eating dry rice. There is nothing wrong with their views. Even Chai Shu agreed with their views after calculations, and felt that weapons such as individual exoskeletons are not suitable for use in the magic world. Until Lillian came here and saw these exoskeletons. After knowing the functions of these weapons, she found Suyi very excitedly. Brother-in-law, is that exoskeleton from your Xianyu group? Can you sell it to us? Su Yi thought at first that this little girl just wanted to get a few sets to play with because she was curious about everything she saw, so he didn't take it seriously and naturally wouldn't refuse her. Then, after getting a positive answer, Lillian said a number that made him confused. For that medium-sized exoskeleton, if we want 10 million sets, how much does it cost? Su Yi thought he had misheard the number for a while and confirmed it several times before he was sure that she said 10 million sets, not 1000 sets. Didn't the shopping guide tell you? This stuff is not very useful in your world. What's the point of buying so many? Why? Is it useless? Lillian blinked and said puzzledly, I just tried it. That kind of medium-sized exoskeleton can probably make ordinary people have more than the strength of a first level warrior. Between the first and second level warriors, if there are only 1 or 2 sets, it will definitely be useless. But if there are enough, such as the 10 million sets I just mentioned, then the effect will be very great. Although there are many practitioners in our world, I have never heard of a single force that can have an army of more than 10 million warriors. Most of the time, those so-called million-strong armies are almost useless. Among the millions of troops, most are ordinary people, and the proportion of cultivators is probably much smaller than you think. Even so, they can still exert strong combat effectiveness on the battlefield. If we can arm an army with more than 10 million people and an average strength of 1 or 2 levels, it is no exaggeration to say that it is only a matter of time before this army sweeps across the entire continent. If only 1 or a few ordinary people can obtain the power of low-level warriors, it is indeed very limited and useless. But if a large group of ordinary people have the strength of low-level warriors, the power that will burst out is definitely unimaginable for the whole world. When she said this, Suyi was stunned for a while. It took him a long time to come back to his senses and realize one thing. The cultivation system in the magic world is very deformed. Even the 9th level cultivators who practice both magic and martial arts, who have a ceiling below the demigod, cannot completely ignore the difference in numbers and fight against countless in the magic world. Having a large number of people is a huge advantage. Previously, when military experts including Xianshu mentioned equipping people in the magic world with exoskeleton armor to improve their personal combat effectiveness, they seem to think too much about these things. They often think that a weapon that can make ordinary people have the strength of low-level warriors is useless in the magic world, where extraordinary people are everywhere. Ordinary people wearing exoskeletons are just weak chickens with a little strength in many low-level practitioners, but they can also be easily controlled. That's why they think it's useless. But because of the super individual soldier label of these exoskeletons on Blue Star, the most important point is ignored. That is, weak chickens that can be easily controlled are not so easy to control once there are enough of them. Even if the magic world is composed of ordinary people, if there are enough of them, few practitioners dare to provoke them. Not to mention the enhanced ordinary people wearing exoskeletons. Of course, it may not be that these experts in Xianzhu ignored this point, but that they had to consider the cost issue when calculating these things. If you want to make a weapon like a single soldier exoskeleton, play this kind of alternative role in strengthening the army in the magic world. The number of exoskeletons required is simply astronomical. Although Lillian looks like an unreliable spendthrift girl, it is very likely that purchasing 10 million sets of exoskeletons at one time is not nonsense. Because after the purchase, Mengchuan City cannot rely on these 10 million sets of exoskeletons to train a million-man army. After all, exoskeletons will be damaged. If 10 million sets of exoskeletons are left as spare parts, it is already very powerful to be able to raise an exoskeleton army of 2 to 3 million. Only when the scale reaches this level, there is a chance to challenge those high-ranking practitioners with mortal bodies. Chapter 348. What is the price of 10 million medium-sized exoskeletons? Let's put it this way. The price of a castrated version of the Sentinel-1 light exoskeleton at Xianyu Group depends on the region and the sales model. The cheapest retail price on Xianyu Group's official website is 120,000 Jiazhao coins, and the most expensive is around 200,000 Jiazhao coins if you buy in bulk. Xianyu Group's price to Jiazhao is 90,000 Jiazhao coins. The price to other countries also depends on the camp. The cheapest set is just over 100,000, and the most expensive set is just over 180,000. This is still a light exoskeleton. Suyi uses the complete production line in the Star World to produce it at a cost of less than 2,000 yuan per set. If it is replaced with a medium-sized exoskeleton with a cost of nearly 10,000 Jiazhao coins, the cost of those few will be several times higher. The cheapest retail prices 500,000, and the most expensive is more than 1 million, and this is just the price. If you want to buy it, you will find that these things are out of stock for a long time. Because the Xianyu Group will not sell medium-sized exoskeletons most of the time. As of now, only Jiazhao is eligible to purchase medium-sized exoskeletons directly from the Xianyu Group, and the purchase price is about 480,000 per set. According to this price, the price of purchasing 10 million sets of exoskeletons is as high as 4.8 trillion. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is an astronomical figure. Mengchuan City may not be able to raise so much money to purchase these exoskeletons in the short term. Even if Suyi sells it to Lillian at the cost price of 10,000 yuan per set, it is not profitable at all as a friendly support to the magic world. The funds that Mengchuan City has to pay for this are also more than 100 billion, which is also an astronomical figure, and Mengchuan City also takes. Wait, Suyi suddenly realized one thing. It seems that Mengchuan City can really take out this money. The funds that we threw to Lillian to purchase are hundreds of billions, and these funds are still left after completing the trade with Jiazhao and paying a large number of weapons. If she was willing to save up, she could probably save up so much money in less than a month with the terrifyingly rich resources in Mengchuan City, and directly pay for the 10 million exoskeletons. Even if Suyi wanted to make some money, 10 million exoskeletons could be sold to Mengchuan City for 200 billion or 300 billion, which is nothing to Wee. If she could really raise an army of several million people, with low-level warriors per capita, and disciplined. Not to mention sweeping across the entire magic world, completely stabilizing the current territory, and even continuing to go south to nibble at the Qiang Empire. These are not impossible. By then, with a larger territory, she will naturally be able to control more resources and make more money. Does Suyi have such a large output here? The answer is yes. These production lines from the interstellar world are of terrifyingly high quality, and the production speed is even more outrageous. When Bailu sent these production lines over, the reason was that the production lines were damaged and could not be repaired due to various reasons. So he applied to his superiors for a new basic weapons production line. It's not that they broke down after being used for a long time. This thing is only used to make exoskeletons. It is very difficult to damage it if it is not attacked by external forces. Even if the production line is smoked, it is difficult to be damaged. Under full firepower, it is not particularly difficult to take out the inventory of Shiranayu Group itself and supply 10 million sets of medium-sized exoskeletons to Mengchuan City in a short time. At this time, the advantages of industry are revealed. It is not too easy to mass-produce mature technical products like this, and this industrial capacity combined with the situation in the magic world is equivalent to mass-producing low-level practitioners in the magic world in an industrial production way. This is the most terrifying place. There are many ordinary people in the magic world, and it can even be said that there are too many. It can be said that there is no shortage of soldiers at all. Combined with this weapon, except invincible, Suyi doesn't know what words to use to describe it. I think your proposal is very feasible, but I'd better not sell it to you now. I will talk to Wee when the time comes. You can look at other things. If you really want to sell 10 million sets of exoskeletons to Mengchuan City, you must not only sell medium-sized exoskeletons, those heavy exoskeletons that can also be mass-produced and have stronger combat power also have large-scale industrial production capacity. When this thing was on Blue Star, Suyi would never sell it. Because there are too many black technologies on the heavy exoskeleton. It even poses a certain threat to the more backward power armor of Shiranayu Group. Once it is sold in large quantities, it will be difficult for others to use this thing to deal with Shiranayu Group. But if it is sold to another world, there will naturally be no such concerns compared to Suyi's brainstorming. Lillian didn't think too much. After getting Suyi's affirmative answer, she left again to visit everywhere. This time, because Suyi encountered such a thing, he had to contact Xianshu and Xiangsuan to discuss the feasibility of this matter and whether it was necessary to do so. So he didn't follow Lillian to visit. It was just that the shopping guide lady from Jiazhou was standing between her and Lillian. Unexpectedly, less than half a minute after Lillian left the place just now, she seemed to have noticed that Suyi was not there, and the opportunity finally came. There were suddenly more people hanging around Lillian at the exhibition site. The shopping guide girl was keenly aware that something was wrong. She was about to frown and call for reinforcement to prevent these unknown strangers from ruining Lillian's fun. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a blonde and blue-eyed young man suddenly came over. The man was wearing a work suit. Judging from the logo on the door, he was obviously a staff member of a Western company participating in this air show. As soon as the man approached, he ignored the shopping guide from Jiazhou and said directly to Lillian, "My beautiful lady, welcome to Blue Star. Let me introduce myself. I'm John from the Bald Eagle Empire of Blue Star. We in the Bald Eagle Empire have admired you for a long time. We hope you can take the time to visit us and talk about trade. Miss, you may not know that no country in the entire Blue Star knows more about trade than our Bald Eagle, and no country has more advanced weapons than us. If you want to purchase some weapon-related items in Blue Star, I strongly recommend that you go to Bald Eagle to take a look. Although the time is not coincidental, we don't have a defense exhibition plan in the near future, but plans can't keep up with changes. If you, the beautiful and noble lady, are willing to go, we can immediately prepare a defense exhibition that is more grand than this and display all the excellent weapons of our Bald Eagle and our allies for you to observe." The man was obviously well prepared. Before the clerks arranged by Jiazhou to protect Lillian took action, he finished his words in one breath. Chapter 349. After saying that, he gave up resistance and allowed the internal staff to take it down. Anyway, that was his mission. Originally, he was just an ordinary Bald Eagle employee. After learning that Lillian was going to visit the Kaishu Air Show, Bald Eagle found him temporarily and assigned him a mission point as a reward. As long as he finished saying these words in front of Lillian, no matter what the final result was, he would be rewarded with more than 50 million swords. If he dies here, the money will be transferred to his family's account. As an employee of a large company, although this young man was not so short of money, he also could not withstand the temptation of such a huge sum of money. So I took on this task. After all, in his opinion, it was just a word. Even if Jiazhao was angered, it was impossible for others to do anything to him. These tens of millions of dollars are equivalent to getting it for free, and if you don't make money, you won't make it in vain. Sorry, this was a mistake on our part. Seeing that the man who suddenly broke in was taken down, the shopping guide girl on the side quickly apologized. Lillian was not too surprised. She had some understanding of Blue Star's situation before coming here, and knew that Kyushu, which was currently cooperating with Mengchuan City, was just one of the many countries on Blue Star, and there were many competitors regarding the fact that a person from another world like her came to Kyushu. The opponents of Kyushu on Blue Star would naturally not watch it, and would definitely take the opportunity to cause trouble. It's okay, let's continue watching. Lillian shook her head and ignored it. The shopping guide sent by Jiazhao officials saw that she didn't seem to take it to heart, so he was relieved and quickly took her to another area to introduce another piece of equipment. In fact, if you really want to talk about it, most of the things that can be used in the magical world have been sent there for use. Lillian's trip here just discovered that exoskeleton armor should be very useful in the magic world. Other equipment is either something that is completely unused in the magical world, or Mengchuan City already has it and has used it, and there are plans for large-scale purchases in the future. It has been written into the previous economic and trade agreement, and there is no need for it at all. Buy it once. The reason why she still wants to wander around is mainly because of the novelty. These weird weapons on Blue Star, let alone whether they are useful in the magical world, are still very interesting. As the prince's daughter, Lillian is not sociable and practices martial arts day and night. She is essentially the type who doesn't like red clothes and prefers weapons. I'm very interested in these weapons. Naturally, I want to know more. The plan failed. The visitor from another world didn't seem interested in our invitation. In an inconspicuous corner, a mechanical maintenance worker witnessed the entire incident. This ordinary-looking middle-aged man quickly took out his mobile phone and reported a few words after Lillian and others left. Judging from Kyushu's previous attitude towards Lillian, if she is really interested in visiting other countries in Blue Star, it only takes one sentence to get the person who just sent the invitation to stay and have a good chat. Kyushu will definitely not stop her. But it turned out that Lillian was not interested at all. Even from the beginning to the end, I only glanced at that person. It seemed that the invitation from Blue Star Overlord Bald Eagle was not as interesting as the mediocre vehicle-mounted self-propelled howitzer in front of him. After being watched by Jiazhao and Xianyu group and unable to communicate with Lillian through normal channels, this situation happened again in private communication. It was obviously a failure and could not fail again. This means that the countries in the western camp want to win over Lillian, and then, just like how they speculated on the rise of the Zhongxianyu group, the idea of returning to the position of world hegemon with the help of another world must have failed. But they will willingly look at the golden mountain in front of them, which they cannot touch. But can Jiazhao and Xianyu group make a fortune from this? Obviously that's not possible. Then execute plan B. A deep voice came from the middle-aged man's cell phone. The middle-aged man, who looked very ordinary, opened his mouth when he heard this, but in the end he sighed and said, "But," after that, he hung up the phone and then looked at a large drone at the exhibition that he was repairing. He picked up the tools and continued to stick his upper body into the belly of the drone as if he was repairing some special parts. His name is Li Shanming, and he is an employee of a large UAV manufacturing company in Kyushu. He has been employed for more than 10 years. Because he has rich work experience and is honest enough on weekdays, he was sent by the company to maintain the air show. The company's products on display. Of course, this is just one part of his identity. In addition, Li Shanming also has another mysterious identity that is unknown. After sticking his upper body into the belly of the plane and hiding it for more than half an hour, Li Shanming, whose head and face were stained with oil, finally poked his head out. He carefully took out a bunch of tools and put them into the tool bag. But no one noticed that the tools put into the tool bag seemed to be more than those taken out before. After loading his things, Li Shanming carried his bag and left the maintenance area in the corner of the air show. Looking at the direction he was going, He seemed to be preparing to leave the exhibition site point, but when he walked somewhere, his eyes seemed to be attracted by the low Earth orbit vehicle that had just been received from the Shia group. That is, the ephemera on display in Kyushu Point. The two legs involuntarily walked towards the crowd who were frantically photographing mayflies. Lillian and the accompanying Jia's house staff happened to be among them. As Li Shanming walked, he picked up his bag and searched for something inside, as if he was looking for a mobile phone or other shooting tools. This action could not be more normal. In addition, he was wearing a staff uniform and looked like he had just finished work, so the vigilant guards around did not pay too much attention to this ordinary middle-aged man. In addition, this is an exhibition area where tourists are allowed to walk around, and there is no reason to stop people for no reason, so naturally they would not care about him. Finally, when he was about to walk into the crowd and take close-up photos of mayflies, Li Shanming, who had been looking for something in his tool bag, seemed to have finally found what he was looking for. Then, less than 10 meters away from Lillian, he took out a very crude homemade pistol. Bang! The explosion of gunpowder interrupted the sound of many cameras taking pictures, and the entire booth fell into silence in an instant. However, this was just the beginning. Without the intention to see the results of his shot, Li Shanming picked up the gun in his hand and pulled the trigger continuously at Lillian, directly emptying all the bullets in this makeshift weapon. Chapter 350. There's a killer. The Jiaozhou Internal Affairs Department protecting Lillian reacted as soon as the gunshot sounded, quickly gathered information, and took out bulletproof handbags, umbrellas and other items to try to block the bullets. This reaction speed is not slow at all. It can even be said to be very fast. But the distance is too close, and the opponent's professional quality is also very high. A rough weapon made by hand has a super high firing rate and excellent accuracy. Every shot is aimed at Lillian. When the internal affairs staff gathered around and spread out various bulletproof equipment, they had already emptied the magazine. There is nothing to be done about it. One is that the opponent is professional, and the other is that this kind of protection mission is too hellish. To put it bluntly, it is no different from betting that no one will harm Lillian. They brought a few agents from the Internal Affairs Department to participate in this crowded air show, and they were not allowed to make any security precautions in advance, and they were not even allowed to drive away the surrounding crowds. They could only follow the mission target and rely on the reaction of the internal affairs staff to deal with emergencies. If there really were killers and assassins, it would be strange if they could prevent it. Even the public speeches that seemed to be political shows abroad, where politicians expressed their opinions in the crowd, were also seemingly unrestricted. In fact, there were certain restrictions, and people entering the scene would be screened to a certain extent, at least to ensure that people on the scene would not carry weapons. If someone came in with weapons and killed the target in this case, it would naturally be the problem of the security department. But for this kind of emergency, the internal affairs department responsible for security can be said to be helpless and without any preventive measures. Moreover, this is the air show site, and there are real guns and live ammunition weapons. If there are really internal personnel who have been bribed, it is not difficult to get some weapons, not to mention this kind of killer who is not sure whether he is disguised or temporarily bribed or an exhibitor staff. They have the skills to make weapons with their hands, and they can easily blend into the crowd, take out weapons and shoot directly, which almost does not give them any time to react. When receiving this task, the head of the Internal Affairs Department said frankly that the risk was too great. Once an accident occurred, the Internal Affairs staff might not be able to react at all. But for this problem, not only Su Yi did not care at all, but even the always rigorous Jiaozhou senior management did not care much. So the Internal Affairs Department could only bite the bullet and take on this task. Until now, the accident really happened. When he heard the gunshot and determined that the location of the gunshot was less than 10 meters away from Lillian, who they were going to protect. The captain of the elite team of the Internal Affairs Department in charge of this operation was already half cold point at such a close distance. Even if the weapons were made by hand, there was almost no possibility of failure, not to mention that the assassins were ridiculously professional point. This is simply unsolvable point at this moment. He almost foresaw that the target he was protecting was shot by an assassin in front of him, and then he would be dismissed by the Internal Affairs Department for dereliction of duty. No. It might even be worse than that, because the person behind him was involved in a national strategy. Although he was not clear about the specific situation as an internal staff, he could roughly understand that this person was probably an important part of Jiao's strategy in the other world. Holding the bulletproof briefcase in front of Lillian was just an instinctive reaction caused by long-term training. In fact, the captain of the elite team of the Internal Affairs Department had a blank mind at this moment. Until you want to kill me with this thing. Some doubtful voices came from the front. The captain of the Internal Affairs Department was stunned for a moment. After putting down the bulletproof briefcase, he found that Lillian, who was protected by them a second ago, had walked in front of their temporary shield wall without knowing when. He was throwing something casually in his hand. A closer look revealed that it was 7 or 8 metal bullets. The bullets were very rough, and you could tell they were made by hand, but they were all real bullets, not steel balls or something like that. They were definitely the bullets fired by the assassin just now. The Internal Affairs team leader suddenly thought of something. That was a special training method that the Internal Affairs Department had recently promoted internally, which was said to be from another world. After practicing well, one could gain extraordinary power. This thing was really effective. He had not practiced it carefully because of the recent tasks, but he saw with his own eyes that a colleague had developed a terrifying strength by practicing it. It was said that these magical training methods were from another world, and Lillian was also from another world. Being able to become the captain of an elite team in the Internal Affairs Department showed that he was not only good at fighting and quick in reaction, but also very flexible in mind. The moment he linked these clues together, the team leader immediately understood why Lillian was such an important task, and the official upper echelons in the Xianyu group did not seem to care much about her safety. Because she could really catch bullets with her bare hands. The reason why these office staff were sent to follow Lillian was not to protect her. To put it bluntly, they were sent to clean up some idle people around her and prevent any messy people from getting close to Lillian. By the way, it was just to express Jiao's importance to this distinguished guest. If they were really in danger, there would be no need for them to take action, or in other words, there would be almost no threat to Lillian on Blue Star. It is different from the despair and sudden enlightenment of the security captain of the Internal Service Department. Li Shanming, who was still happy that he finally succeeded a second ago, was completely confused when he saw the warhead in Lillian's hand being thrown up and down again and again. Naturally, he was not in the mood to answer Lillian's question. He was stunned for a long time before he said tremblingly, "Are you a human or a ghost?" Lillian didn't bother to talk to him when she saw this. She squeezed the pile of yellow bullets into a pile of metal pieces and threw them on the ground. Then she looked at the man who was already scared to death. The little shopping guide who came back to his senses. "How do you usually deal with this kind of thing?" Before the shopping guide had time to reply, the team leader from the back office department who had figured out the situation quickly said, "I'm sorry to frighten you, our guest. This was our mistake. We will take this person back for interrogation later, and we will definitely find out who is behind it and give you an explanation. Okay, then I'll leave this person to you." Lillian shrugged, but she didn't care too much. But when he was about to leave, he kicked a piece of metal on the ground in front of him. The next moment, the metal piece shot out like an arrow, hitting Li Shanming right on the chin. Accompanied by the harsh sound of bone cracking, Li Shanming fell to the ground. His entire jaw was bloody and turned into a piece of rotten meat. It seems like there's something hidden in his mouth. I think it's poison or something. To prevent him from committing suicide, let's remove the jaw first. You can get some water of life to heal this minor injury quickly." Lillian waved her hand as if she was just doing something insignificant. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like, Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.